come back with. Okay, we're coming out of the executive session. We have nothing to report with regards to the employee matter we just discussed with our attorney.
So we're back to the hazard.
And I recognize the employees who sat here for quite some time this morning, waiting for their turn in the barrel, but I need to, Ms. Lassard is still here, and I know she needs to get back to work. So I think we're going to go back to our hazard pay discussion, bring that to some kind of closure so that we can move on with our agenda. So just in clarification, we're going to, is it clear that we're going to ask the communities in Hancock County to submit to us data that includes how many first responders they have with police, fire, EMS, and dispatch, and to what extent they want to contribute their ARP funds or any other funds that they have towards a 2-for-1 match by the county for hazardous pay for those employees. And that those should be, we should have those by December 1st. I don't think it's unreasonable. Paul?
So I agree with your approach. I don't agree with stating 2-to-1 because I don't know what the numbers are or what they could potentially be. I think that should be handled through a letter from our ARP coordinator to the communities so that, there's no question about communities being notified. And that sounds like a good plan to me. I don't like the 2-to-1 thing, although that is in our mind. I'm just not wanting to throw that out yet.
My reason for stating that is that I think the amount contributed by the county as a match to the core amount could influence what the municipality wants to do. For example, if we had a 10-to-1 match, you can imagine how that would incentivize these communities to raise a bunch of money. So it seems to me the first question it has is, okay, well, how much are you matching? If we come up with 1,000, how much are you going to put with it? I think that's important. They know that, so that helps them make some definite decision as to how much they're going to raise. And I think it's important, Ms. Lassard, that these communities understand that they don't have to go to their powers to be, whether it's the council or select people or whatnot, and get this monies approved. They simply have to have an approval to recognize these amount in this amount, because it could be that at some point this official approval later might be affected by what we do, for example. So in other words, you meet with your council and Bucks board and say, how much money do you want to give as a core amount if the county contributes $2 for every dollar we pony up? And let them make a decision on what that is, but not make the decision that they're going to pay their employees that money. So that doesn't have to be a totally done deal before we get it. We could just get some tentative numbers from the municipalities that would help us decide whether or not we wanted to proceed with this ARP fund.
Well, with all that said, I also like the administrator's plan moving forward, because I'm convinced that we're going to have a can of worms on every single point, and nothing constructive is going to come out of that. I think we got to sit back. This is an issue we started with this plan. I got to tell you, I've rethought it. Like I said, that I'm very sorry that, I think that it should have been dealt with in a more direct way. I got nobody to blame but me. But I like Scott's plan, and I think maybe, I'm not sure how what you just outline how that fits in it. It certainly does somehow. But to me, it's clear that there's a clear path forward here because this was not constructive to me. This is just going to pit one community against another. And more importantly, the community against the county and vice versa. So, and the next question is, what do we do with this plan? I see this plan out the window. We deal with it in a direct way. And we move forward with, somehow working with the communities to maintain equity.
Well, I'm sitting here today, I refuse to allow two communities out of Hancock County to come in here and bully us into taking this money away from their employees. I have said from day one that we should be benefiting them. It's approved by ARP conditions, and that we should be recognizing the 15 months of at-risk work. And the fact that two communities come in here and are opposed, that they don't have the amount of money that we have to spend, and for that reason, we shouldn't pay our employees, is absolutely absurd. And there's no way in hell I'm ever going to agree not to compensate our employees this benefit as long as it's approved. And John?
That's my quandary.
Again, I want to see us trying to do some kind of a match or ratio, however we want to decide to do it. We can start it with the intention of the 2-to-1. I still support the hazard pay for the county employees as it stands. This gets paid. There's still over $10 million sitting on the table. I think we can come to a conclusion that would satisfy the towns. I think we can come to a conclusion on it that I think we can reach. Might not be easy, but that's okay. So I'm for approving the pay as we've worked on it. And also taking into consideration everything the townscape said today, trying to work with it to a reasonable conclusion. Yeah, this might throw some problems with some of our plans that we had thought about for handicap entrance in this building. We'll have to see. There's some other kinds of things like that might be affected by it. It's just the way it goes.
Well, for the towns, I think we may be maybe too generous here, but now the silver lining here may be that because we have given this amount to our employees, it gives us perhaps more willingness to compensate other towns for an amount higher than has been suggested. So.
Just say one thing.
Sure. Why not?
I apologize if you think I came here to bully you. That wasn't my intent. Came to share information from a community that's part of this county in regard to the ARPA monies. I have never said that county employees don't deserve recognition, that they don't deserve any of that or any of that. I was talking, my job is to represent the community that I'm hired to represent. And I didn't come here to denigrate the county, to say anything negative, but to share information. You think it's just Bucksport and Ellsworth? I can tell you that it probably isn't, and you'll find that out. And that's not a threat, that's just a statement. I'm not trying to be difficult, and whatever you decide, you'll decide. But I don't like being characterized as a bully.
And Sue, I'll take that back. I take it. But we were heavily influenced by you and Glenn to reduce the amount of money that we were paying our employees for hazardous pay. There's no way that you can say no. I mean, both of you objected to the amount of money that we were giving them and whatnot, and that's money that we're going to deny our employees if we allow that influence by you and Glenn to affect today's decision on what we pay them. So I apologize, Bully. As you can see, I'm just a little passionate about this, and given my background, I know what first responders went through for those 15 months. And so, I'm sorry.
As do I, sir. I have first responders that I have done this for 40 years as well. The people who work for me are the only service we have to provide to the community, and every one of them has showed up during this time. So I'm as passionate about what we can do for our employees as you are passionate about what county can do for theirs. And the comparison isn't cut theirs to do it. It's, can we make it more equitable? Out of your $10 million, whether it's through Scott's idea or however that happens, is there a way that the communities can do things on that same, for these people that we're talking about, that were and still are in harm's way? Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point because you've argued it to death, but I'm a lot of things. Passionate, a good administrator, bully, no.
And again, I apologize for using that terminology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for me, both made points about the amount of money and creating hardships in their communities for this. And I see that. I get it. You know, my reasons for supporting it, I've stated that. I no longer support it because I think that it needs to be done directly so that this perceived inequity, because if you took that out of it, these amounts would not be where they are. And I totally agree with both of your points, but I learned an important lesson here, and that's not to mix up the two issues. I think it's to the detriment of the communities, but I get it. So I see both sides of this, but that's where I am.
You're going to have inequities
If
simply by virtue of one community wanting a higher base pay than another community for their first responder. They're going to develop their own inequities. And so for us to say that we're not going to pay X amount of dollars for our employees because we don't want an inequity, and then to have the same people who brought that inequity issue to us causing an inequity amongst themselves is almost two-faced. So, Paul, would you support a payment today for hazardous pay to our employees if we reduced that amount to something less than what we have on the books?
Yes, but I don't think you should pander to me because I think I think you both agree. And I respect that. And you know what? When I walked in here, I agreed with you. But hearing these two folks state what they have said, I've changed. I think, to me, that the inequity is not going to disappear. We're just going to go about it a different way. We're going to go about it in a direct way, which is what they asked us to do. And I see both sides of this. I really do. Quite frankly, I hope that it passes, but so don't pander to me. But that's why I will vote the way I am. I think we should deal with this directly.
John, do you think we should reduce the amount today? And if you think that might be something that we should consider, I will throw out something. If the town of Bucksport, for example, offers $1,000 to the first responders for hazardous pay, and we match that 2 to 1, that would be a $3,000 grant. That'd be a $3,000 benefit, I mean. And so we're offering $5,000 to first responders. $3,000 would be a 40% reduction in our grant. Now, should we acknowledge the comments we've heard today from communities and the public? Simply take this list and reduce everybody's amount by 40%, pay that amount, agree to pay that amount to them.
So here's, I know you asked John this question, but
He's thinking, so.
just to quantify that, what the statement you just made is $50,000.
What do you mean?
It's $50,000. Let's say Bucksport says 1,000, we match out with 2,000, right? So Ms. Lassard said there's 25. That's 30,000, that's $50,000. Okay, Ellsworth, let's take the same thing. That's $80,000. Okay. Bar Harbor is gonna be similar to that.
80,000 money that we kick in over and above what.
Yes. Okay, those are three communities. And we have, those are, might be the largest, but, add those together, that's that's $250,000. So that's easily, if you add everybody up, I'm guessing conservatively, that's $1 million.
Which is fine, because the more I hear Scott say this, and he said it before, I'm subscribing to this theory that perhaps we should be considering somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million goes back to the community in some form or another. And so if they take $1 million for hazardous pay, that leaves $4 million for broadband, for housing, for whatever other projects that we want to fund under ARP. So I'm not concerned with how much this money is. I think the communities ought to be concerned that perhaps by giving this amount, they're going to lose funding for other projects that they might have want to prioritize. But that's.
Well, that's why I like the managers or the administrators' point, is that let them decide and we'll stay right the heck out of it.
Kind of thinking that they would almost prefer that. The only one I see in the audience is Sue. And
Yeah.
she may or may not, show the poker face yet, but, because, and really honestly, you've already kind of sort of committed to the second half being saved for broadband and some larger things. We're
Yep.
really concentrating on the first half. So you've already committed, really in your mind, you've already committed, as you said, the chair, we've already committed over $5 million towards that. And actually more than that, because many of the projects that we're doing now, like the $300,000 grant, goes towards that as well. So I think if you start calculating this up, it's going to be a big number. The only issue that I see with that is the next can of worms is, it goes back to that word. You gave town X so much for, and town Y doesn't have the fire department, the EMS to the level of town X. So by virtue of that, you're creating the same issue that they're presenting. I'll stay away from it.
But even if we follow Glenn and Sue's recommendation, there's going to be an inequity on how much we send each community. I mean, she's not saying send everybody $250,000. She's saying send everybody a proportional amount based upon the service they provide. So the inequity comes in two forms: the objective number that you send, or the disparity in how you treat the people from one community to another. We're not treating anybody differently. The amount they get is based upon the proportional amount of service they provided during the pandemic.
On this one issue.
Right, yeah.
So
Change on other issues.
If you were going to decide that X dollars were going to benefit of the number of communities in them, you could simply take whatever amount that was and distribute it according to the same formula that we pay county tax percentage.
You could also do that. I mean, I just went with the ARC formula because it's sitting there. You could do the same thing on valuation, but essentially, yes, that was
That's
my
what I'm saying.
plan.
And then-
Yeah,
And then you don't have to argue, then equity is we got the same, in the same proportion that we contribute.
right. That's pretty much the essence of my presentation. How you split the baby.
Yes, that's another argument.
So now you have two options.
But I'm, the point isn't to make you all crazy, and I don't represent every town in the county.
Well, if you're here,
Right, but you are correct. It will come. It is going
I was
to
gonna
come.
say, whatever you do,
Yeah, it
I'm
is
not
going
gonna be
to
the
come.
only one who sits in this chair. I just happen to be the first one, second one, I think Glenn was here before me, but
well, not only that, it's gonna get worse because you haven't even talked to your select board yet. Or your select board hasn't taken action, I should say.
my council has not
Council.
taken action on it.
Yeah.
We're still, because we're in the pending situation, but even if the money was sitting in the bank, we wouldn't have spent it yet. There's too much, this magic mailbox that landed on all of us, it's not coming back again. So whatever we do with the $500,000 that we're getting, it's gotta be something that's sustainable, a good investment, and doesn't dig a hole for us to have to dig back out of again. That's how we're looking at our.
Well, and to be honest, that is exactly how we're looking at it. And to throw that, to complicate things, the matter even worse, is that 150-page document of what can fit in there. And that's what we've been struggling with. You haven't been struggling with it because you haven't dealt with it yet. Our money is in the checkbook, so we started dealing with it.
Right.
You're gonna face the exact same things we are.
And there's actually one page in that document. There's 3 paragraphs that pretty much, it gives parameters of what that is. And the rest of it, or much of the rest of it, is how you're gonna account for every penny you spend. And that, this is the criteria, is if you can make a square peg fit into a round hole in order to call it ARPA eligible. But that's what everybody's, the fact that we haven't made a decision on it doesn't mean we haven't talked about it. It's an ongoing process.
And it's not even the final rule yet,
No.
by the way, folks. So, but as Commissioner Clark pointed out, and I think the rest of the board agreed, that this is one of those items that's pretty specific as to what you can do. There's no concern about whether that qualifies or not. And, so, we have the final ruling coming.
I can tell you, though, gentlemen, I sat here for 34 years and watched the board up here procrastinate meeting after meeting after meeting. And a few years ago, this particular board finally got over that and started making decisions and moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that we blindly move ahead, oblivious to the comments from the public and town officials and whatnot. But I don't want this discussion today to place us in a position where we sit here and procrastinate for months or years on how to spend this money. We've spent a lot of time thinking about this and what we want to do with it. And I say we continue to move ahead. We have made significant strides to share with the municipalities out there our funds for hazardous pay, which is the issue that we're talking about today. And we should compliment ourselves on that we have made this whatnot, but not at the expense of our employees. So John, I'll come back into you would you approve something today that would be a percentage less than Scott's recommendation at $5,000?
I mean, I'd say that I do think from the beginning, $5,000 is a very generous hazard pay bonus or compensation.
Yeah, if you remember, I had 2 options.
Yeah.
I had a 4 and a 2.
Yeah.
4,000.
And the reason we got here is, changed.
And we've all got to admit, no matter what the number is, it's somewhat arbitrary. There's nothing out there, nothing objective that you can relate to say, because of this, we should be giving that. You know what I mean?
It's subjective.
It's just as subjective as can be. And so we selected a number, and we've been based on that number, whatnot. But I'm prepared today, whatnot, John, to make a motion that we compensate our employee for hazardous pay at 75% of the amounts that Scott has given us on this report.
And still have 2 tiers.
And 2 tiers. In other words, if you were supposed to get 5,000, you'll now get 4,000. If you're supposed to get 2,500, you get 75% of that, whatever the figure's up to be. And that, In fact, I'm going to make that motion that we agree today to compensate our employees at 75% of the benefit suggested by the administrator in his report from ARP for hazardous pay.
That's keeping the plan. Just reducing the amount.
Just reduce, keeping the plan in place, reducing the amount.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to compensate the employees at 75% of the report. Discussion. Do you feel better about that, Paul?
I do, but the problem still hasn't gone away for me. You know,
Can I ask a real quick question? So let's say we did, I'm gonna stop using split and pay. Just say we allocated the total amount. So the county, we'll just say you're looking at 5.3 or somewhere in that neighborhood. If that's what the county had the responsibility, you've allocated that to the rest of the communities. Would you still do the 5 and the 2,500, or would you feel comfortable at the 75%? You see what I'm saying?
Well, I'm not agreeing with that 5.3, so.
I didn't say you were gonna, I'm just saying to consider that, and this really is, when you ask Commissioner Parity for the comfort level, is, are you comfortable with doing that? And I am avoiding the I word, because that's constantly the disparity, there's so much disparity here that it's it's futile to even try to address it, so.
no. I think that there's hazardous pay warranted here. No question in my mind. The amount is where I have question, and that is what has been brought forth to us. I initially felt that this was high, but then when I started considering some of these other things, I came to the conclusion that it was not high. But now I have to pull that stuff out because 2 communities have said, you're creating a hardship for us. One community has said, if, it was $1,000, we wouldn't even be here. Okay, so that's the problem I have. The kicking of the can down the road, or the Band-Aid that got me to $5,000 has not gone away and must be dealt with. Okay, so what I'm afraid of is that we're going to be doing both. We can't afford both. Okay, so long speech. I'm going to vote no on this because of what I heard. They want us to deal with it directly. It's going to pass. There's no hardship. I see all these points here. So I please don't pander to me because I am just, what these 2 folks said, whether they intended it or not, doesn't matter. I see every community having this concern. And the only way to do that to alleviate that is Scott's plan and deal with things directly as opposed to taking advantage of these ARP funds. And I think it's going to end up costing the communities in the end, but there'll be peace.
Very good point.
I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay, sorry.
Motion carries 2-1 with Commissioner Parity in opposition. Back on the issue at hand, are we going to let Scott prepare this survey or whatever we're going to call this to the towns?
I'll work with Kitty.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and basically when he gets it done, he's going to send it out? There's no reason.
Yeah, we'll probably draft something up. We'll send it to you for review and
And again, I think that somehow I'd like to see your plan worked into that because.
I can send that out. That's easy, whether
Yeah,
it's
this-
valuation or,
Yeah.
the ARP or whatever.
What's the
Yeah.
plan?
The allocation, the splitting of the funds, I'll see what I call it.
Yeah, because this argument was just on this subject this time. Broadband's gonna do the
Yeah,
same.
it is, unless you say, let them,
We got-
allow the towns to make their decision.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't want to be involved in making decisions for the towns. That's their business.
That is a big advantage of doing it, but.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that if you simply take $5.2 million, you divvy that up and you distribute that proportionally to all the towns and whatnot, you're going to destroy our ability to do anything meaningful with broadband.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, when we do something meaningful, it's going to be meaningful in a certain segment of the county. It can't be countywide. We can't afford to do it countywide. So we're going to have to identify some region that we're going to improve broadband. If we dilute our funds to the point where we distribute it to all the towns, we're not going to have that regional impact for broadband that we would like to have seen. So I'm not in favor of, I don't want to talk, I personally do not want to talk right now about distributing funds proportionally to towns on this 10.2 million. We have a plan in place today and whatnot, how we're going to assist communities in the hazard pay. I'd like to see that go out. I'd like to see what the response is. We now have set what our hazard pay is going to be for our employees that could help them make a decision perhaps on
Sure.
what they're going to do. And that's progress. I mean, that's not procrastination. That's the progress I'd like to see. So
Yeah, I think we're taking the town's concerns totally seriously. Our intentions to listen.
we're doing exactly what Sue and Glenn asked us to do, contribute towards the hazardous pay for those communities. And maybe not at the extent that we have, but maybe so. If Sue comes up with $2,000 and we agree to 2-to-1, we're gonna get more than we got. So we have a motion on the floor. We have an understanding that the administrator is going to pull together this. It's not really a survey, it's a program.
We'll develop something, but yeah, so it's information request, yeah.
Okay, and we really, Sue,
Just that if you had it at an amount not to exceed, a grant that would exceed the county's allocation, meaning that if you're doing 4,000 and Bar Harbor said they do 2, that gets them,
I think it's an excellent idea that we incorporate that in,
Cap.
that there's a cap that would not exceed.
That's why I smiled when you said that, that's exactly what I was thinking. Because it goes right back to the I word.
See, the thing is that I'm not sure, I guess it's not to exceed 4,000.
I guess if they want the county, yeah, right, yeah,
That's what
I'm not
you
sure
did.
where, right,
Oh, what do I do, 25%?
Yeah.
Oh, 25, okay, it's 37.50.
yes.
The max
So
amount.
what you did is
Right.
$37.50
So if the county sets the
and
standard, then
$18.75.
that's what you're saying, is that any
Okay,
contribution from the county should
Sure.
total should not exceed the standard set by the county.
so there you go, municipalities. I mean, you can pony up to $1,250, and we'll match that. So now that gives them a good
There you
idea on how much money they,
Well,
well, wait a minute. I mean, they could say, we're gonna pony up 4. We're gonna give them,
Why would they, but,
yeah, right, yeah, no.
they're gonna blow a lot of communities would blow all their money doing that.
Okay, we understand though. So there will be a cap on that they're,
And again, one of my objections, I don't want to belabor this, I just want to make the statement. One of my objections is I asked for an amount from Mr. Motor and he said $1,000. Anything over $1,000 was creating a hardship. I kind of took that to heart.
And I do want to point out too, because I keep forgetting, is that, and Mr. Mosier pointed out too, Glenn pointed out, was that this should be done using the county formula. So a lot of your communities have volunteer firefighters, and
Yeah.
hopefully there's a way. They might have 20 volunteer firefighters, but if, 10 of them are regulars, there must be a way, because I know through some of their reporting, they have to keep record of this, of them finding out how many hours were actually allocated during the course of that 15 months. It's just,
here we go.
Also assuming.
When I think of the complexities we have, when I think of the complexities we have in just trying to figure out what county employees should get, all these nuances kicked in and whatnot. We haven't even seen.
No, we weren't.
So here's one I'll throw at you then. When you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. And it goes right back to the allocation that I presented earlier.
And that may be what we come to.
Yeah, and I don't want to belittle this.
Yeah, so
There's some hard work in.
I'll send you something.
Yeah.
I'll send you something. I have an idea. I'm gonna send you something with a couple of options and some narrative.
Well, at this point, though, I want this to go out just the way we talked about.
Yeah. Oh, I'm all set. I'm set with this. Yeah.
You're doing a motion on that, weren't you?
No, I didn't do a motion. Should there be a motion on that? you think?
On,
This program,
Doing this,
this 2-to-1 program.
let us develop something before you make a
Okay.
motion, but let's put it down.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that way we have
Yeah.
something in front of us.
all right,
Yeah.
well, sounds good.
yeah.
All right, we're going to move on.
Thank you, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
I'm feeling that you're not really happy that I came, which is
That's
okay.
not true. No, the dialogue doesn't need to happen. That's not true.
But thank you for the time.
That's like us saying you could be happy because it probably went a little bit further than what you had intended.
Well, if you hadn't come, the communities wouldn't have gotten this.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have not done this on our own, so it's well worth your time.
And we would have, I told you, I would have voted.
Yeah, I appreciate all of your time, the thought that you put into this, and I get wanting to reward your employees to the best ability possible, because that's really what all of us who manage communities or counties want. So thank you.
Moving on, let's talk about
Maintenance.
no, we're talking about the SO ADA entrance project.
Oh, yeah.
We're still under ARP business.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot items C. But they're sort of rolled together, right?
Well, Dennis, just give us a quick update on where we are with our entrance project.
I was looking at the TV for Dennis.
Good morning, gentlemen. Wow, what a morning. Okay, well, do you have copies of the Sealander
Yes.
proposal? And we communicated with Sealander, Scott did, and asked him to redefine a couple of points so that we could maybe approach this more incrementally than the one deal for 36 and change. And it has sent along an hourly description for each of the,
They have copies.
which you all have. So I think it's pretty straightforward now what we'll be paying as things are developed. And it will be up to Sealander to keep us apprised of what entities are performing what tasks. We already know that he'd like to perform that ground survey and elevation survey to make preliminary preparations easier for determining what would happen where, when and if it were to happen. So now I guess we decide, we bring him in or sign a firm contract or bring him in for more deliberations or approve a development percentage of this. What are the thoughts then?
Well, first of all, it's not a given, Scott, that his fees can be covered under ARP finances, is it? ARP funds.
It's not a given. I would be pretty sure. The only question I think would come in is if the project was like not even qualified, why are you doing that? So if the project becomes qualified, I would say yes.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm
Yeah.
just-
But other than
My
that,
point is that if for some reason his fees do not, we're going to have to incur those fees from another source.
right. And even if the project doesn't qualify, maybe for some, we could still put in to say, well, we have some consulting fees, and I think as long as we kept it reasonable, it would be accepted.
Well, reasonable is going to be 36,000.
No, and that's
No.
why I asked you for the hourly rate, because no, we don't want to hit that.
Unless it falls.
So the 150 an hour is in lieu of the 36,000 contract fee, is that correct?
No, it's in there.
Right, that's the rate per hour, not to exceed.
Not to exceed, okay, that's it, all right.
That's how I take it.
Yes.
Okay,
So I see this again as if we move to the point where we decide, okay, this isn't something we're interested in doing right now. We have used C-Later as a consultant only, not as an architect.
Right.
So I think that really it lends credibility to that expense, but it also will allow us to lay the groundwork for repairs that we need anyway. But we're doing something about those steps either way, I think.
Yes,
I mean,
that's what we need to.
That's
Yeah.
a good.
Yeah, that's just something that we're really gonna
Yeah.
seek to improve one way or the other. So I think proceeding is a very low risk. I mean, quite low, I would think. Without risk, I wouldn't dare to say that, but.
Paul, you familiar with the deterioration of the steps down there?
Yes, well, not like you folks are, but
I mean, you're aware that
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
serious deterioration.
Concrete spalling
Yeah.
and the areas where the integrity is just going, exposed rebar, et cetera.
no, and I see this as a way to, let's say that it doesn't qualify. Well, we've done some preliminary work to get there. We know what project has to be moving forward.
So, are you prepared to make a motion, gentlemen?
Yes, so I'm going to move to approve the Sealand Architect's proposal for conceptual design services for the sheriff's office elevator addition dated September 3rd, as well as the fee schedule provided, both as presented and recommended.
So do we need not to exceed in
No, because that, in my opinion, that's in the contract.
I think it's implied.
Yeah, he referenced it.
It's referenced,
That's good,
yeah.
yeah.
John, you all set with that?
Yeah, I see.
Yes, motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Okay.
that's a great step. Now I'll just say that I think what the next step for us is gonna be another meeting where he brings some documents forward. And then we start our skill sessions.
So the work he's going to be completing though is in this scope of services right here, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to,
That's where we're starting,
and
which is why we recommended we do the billing incrementally, so that if we decide a new direction is needed, or to depart from this completely, we'll know where we stand.
okay,
And the flexibility is there.
Agreed.
Yes,
and he's fully agreed to this, right?
Yeah, he knows where I think he started off with, at the end of this, we'll provide this service and this is the cost. And I think he had kind of approached it with our last project, which actually included the stairs, ironically. And things changed, so he shifted along with us as well. So I have no reason not to expect the same kind of cooperation.
Very good. Let's move right into maintenance, Dennis, while you're standing there.
Sure.
Gentlemen, we have Dennis's monthly report.
I'm going to move to accept and file a maintenance director's report as presented in his memo dated August 26th.
Seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Capital plan.
Yeah, this is a revision based on the work that we've already done in the past couple of years, and also our budget discussions and what we'd allocate resources for our budgeted funds as opposed to capital improvement projects. It's a pretty tight list, I think.
So looking at this, if this entrance projects became successful, and we did that, we could eliminate the stairway repair on the county facade, right?
County facade, that's the front.
oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
no,
That's the front.
Oh, I thought this was the facade on the, oh, I see. So we'd be just eliminating the stairway project.
Yes.
That would just get worked in.
You,
This would just.
Yeah, we approach it separate.
you really thought you could do those stairs for 75 grand?
We did, yeah, a re-pour,
right.
although we had the granite
Had
estimate,
granted in there too.
was
at
like
90, but
90,000.
Yeah, that wasn't as extensive as like digging the whole thing out.
And that wasn't a quote, or it was an estimate given to us by him.
Do we need to take action with this or just acknowledge?
No, we have.
We have what?
Yeah, just take, if you agree to accept it, do a quick action and vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless there's something else.
And approve it as the framework for.
Dennis, there was one other item. Oh, was it in the roof replacement that we said because you got there's a couple little small roof problems,
yes.
like on the elevator that would also get done if we did that project. It's not much, but yeah. So,
Now, again, like the fencing on the northeast boundary and whatnot, I mean, if the court, as they talked to us recently, talked about acquiring the property next door, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
we have to
and
raise this.
we've incorporated that into our plan, and that I was gonna seek some bids to replace all of it earlier this summer. But based on the developments with the courts, we just have to wait, right, kind of see what happens, kind of hold batter on that.
that's
So we've done some repairs, but not a wholesale replacement.
right. You'll see those three that are highlighted. That's mine's highlighted in yellow. I don't know if yours, but the three at the bottom. Those three, the annex interior upgrades, of course, is something, if the courts move out, what we do here.
Yeah, that could change.
So those three items have been put off and probably will get put off again next year unless we have to do something in the annex that,
Oh, we do have plans, like the flooring in the,
Right.
in the first floor. We're
Right.
gonna tile that as a budget item.
Right.
And limit it to just that corridor area.
Yep.
Which pushes off, some of the interior issues that we have. Pushes them a little further.
The figures at the end of the 10-year figures, that's the cost of the project, but there's no determination as to what year you think you might do that. Is that correct?
That's right. Lumen, they're done.
Yep. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure with regards to the capital plan?
I'm going to move to accept and file a capital plan update as presented.
Seconded. Discussion. I'm looking at the next page. I just taking a minute to look at this. And these are completed.
all the projects, yeah.
These are completed projects on this. Okay, so it has really nothing to do with the capital plan, right?
Right, it's just more information.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Dennis.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen.
Holy smokes. Michelle, would you come to the mic, please? Gentlemen, indulge me, please. And this lady's been sitting here all day for one item.
Thank you, yeah.
And I understand
That's going to be pretty quick.
well, and I understand that she has worked with our HR department. Our HR department is, I don't speak for you, Rebecca, but you can accept the job descriptions that she's proposing this morning.
Yeah, they look good to me. Yeah, we work together on them, they look great.
So I don't want to take wind out of your sails, but you've been here so patient, so I just, I'm going to move to approve the job descriptions for legal secretary 1, 2, and 3 as presented and recommended.
Seconded.
I didn't mean to step on.
Michelle, at some point, and it's more of a technical issue, whatnot, but if you're never going to have a 2, whatnot, then, but you are going to have a 1 and a 3. And I haven't studied those enough to know the difference yet. There used to be a substantial difference between the 2 and whatnot. I would think someday you modify that whole thing and either have a legal clerk, legal secretary, or you know what I mean, and get away with this 1, 2, 3 or something. So anyways, I would certainly embrace that if that ever come back to us, okay? Okay, gentlemen, any further discussion? Hearing the motion on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else? Thank you for
for
being
your patience.
Thank you for being patient. Okay,
Michelle,
Miller, are you still with us? You've gone out chopping hay.
watch it.
I'm still here.
Okay, thank you for indulging us. This has been,
Yeah, you don't, but it's pushing you.
Okay, so how about monthly report? I'm going to move to accept and file the UT Director's report as presented.
Seconded.
motion is made and seconded to approve discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 And motion carries. Second funding on the ATV club, Miller.
Yes,
So what's that mean? In other words, is another bill? Is that what happened?
yeah, the Acadia area, excuse me. Acadia area ATVs, they're gonna submit their invoices monthly. They submitted one last month, and now this is the one for this month.
So
And
you'll
they're in
be coming
hopes,
back. Yeah, he'll be coming back to us several months in a row here with.
Yes.
Basically. So this is almost just a formality, right?
yes, and I wanted to ask the commissioners, is this the way you want to continue this? Or do you want me to simply forward these to Brian and you only act on them when it comes time to spend the money for reimbursement? Do you want to see every one of these invoices monthly?
Well, do you think that's necessary?
It's up to you.
I mean, we're just a pass-through, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
I see nothing but cost of time.
no, that's right. Paul said it, but it's just costing time that we don't need, so. you know,
His time and our time.
Right, you got time and. So unless somebody's in opposition, no, Miller, we do not. Tell us when we have to take official action and we'll move.
Well, this one is on the agenda, so I'm gonna move to approve the Acadia area ATVers grant funding request as presented and recommended.
Second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And this came back to us because of the form.
No, I think this is a new submission, right, Miller?
Yes, this is the second request. The
Okay,
first request came back and they wanted it on a different form, which I have done and submitted.
okay.
This one, I have the form, so I'll submit it on the right form to start with.
The reason I bring that up is because there were different amounts, but now I get
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, you can still get the paperwork. if you
Yeah.
wanted.
it. No,
You just wouldn't have to take. wouldn't
Come
have to
each.
Yeah.
thank you.
Village snow removal.
Snow removal. We know we're gonna get some.
No,
Every 5 years, Miller, we're supposed to get hammered. This is the 5th year coming up.
I spoke with Stephen Jordan. He's one of the Waltham selectmen. He is speaking with the person that they have their snowplow contract with. Waltham, last year was Waltham's first year of a 5-year contract with RF Jordan and Sons for plowing and sanding. And I talked to Mr. Jordan a couple weeks ago and hadn't heard back from him, so I called him this morning. And he said that he had submitted my request to their road commissioner, Guy Edwards, and Mr. Edwards was going to contact their contractor and see what the cost would be to the town of Waltham. No results yet, but the selectman, Stephen Jordan, said there was a definite maybe. I don't have a no, don't have a yes either, but it looks like it may happen. It's just, they don't have their numbers yet.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen, Miller, are we risking being late getting these bids back? I mean, at some point, you gotta tell us, that you can't wait.
Good question. I think as long as we've got some answer before the 1st of October,
Yeah.
we'll be safe. If we don't have something by the 1st of October, we should probably get the bid process starting, even if we have to reject any and all bids later on and go with Waltham.
Okay. All right, so if we don't hear anything back, we'll expect on our agenda item on the 1st of October to go out to bid, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's no action needed here.
So far, it sounds like this may work out. But, it's only a definite maybe.
Would it help you, Millard, if we did move today that you could go out to bid October 1st unless you,
If you get any documents, get them ready, but we could even do it on the 28th. Our meeting's the 28th, have them report on the
that's right,
28th.
Millard, the 28th, we're meeting late.
Yeah.
In September because of a scheduling conflict. So let's put it on the agenda for the 28th unless you've got a resolution with the town of Waltham, okay?
Okay, why don't I put on the agenda for snow plowing? And then A, going out to bid, or B, agreeing, doing an agreement with Waltham.
That's what yep, that's fine. Very good then. Anything else, Millard, from UT?
That's all I've got. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, would you entertain jumping to Tim?
He hasn't sat there all day.
Couple of quick items, and I'm just asking.
He stood for a
Should
while.
be-
Oh, he stood for a while?
Yeah,
Well,
should be fairly
okay,
quick.
because he had to stand for a while.
Sorry, Leroy.
Just a couple quick things. First, the dryer has been installed, it's up and running. Going to warrant this warrant to pay for that bill. So we have to, that'll be up and running. That's what we're putting the laundry room. Convection oven, we had the issue. Had a lot of emails back and forth, we come to the conclusion we're going to agree to purchase it. We made that purchase, it should be delivered next week. And they had it in stock, but just they didn't have the legs, the racks that we needed for it. And I'm just requesting that to be paid for out of the reserve line that we use to pay for the dryer, which is $24,700. Pay for that, cost of that,
It's the rest of the vehicle money,
rest
right?
of the paper.
Yeah, didn't we take action?
We just did it by
I think
email.
we did it by email, yeah.
So if that's good enough, then that's all I need.
No, we'll take action today. So, how much are we taking? You didn't.
Well, there's only 10,000 in that line, and was it enough to cover it?
6,300, and it's gonna be within $100 or so of covering that, the cost of the.
I'm just trying to help you, Paul craft a motion here for this. Gentlemen, give us a hand here.
Yeah, what's the equivalent like, Tim? Is that what you said?
Equivalent is 24,7,300.
100.
Equipment is 100.
Equipment is 100.
Well, I thought you had no-
Vehicle is 300.
I thought you were taking-
We didn't have any money in the 100, correct?
Right, but you move the 10,000
To the, we
from
did.
the 300 to the 100
So we're gonna take out the 100.
to pay for the dryer.
Okay, so you move the 300, 100, and we're gonna spend it at one.
Yes,
Put all 10,000 in the 100 line.
yes.
So we did the dryer already.
Did the dryer already, yeah.
So
So the motion would be to expend 10,000 from the 2470-100 line for confection oven for the jail.
So it's 10,000.
10,000 is the total that was in the vehicle. This is gonna be, what do you say? It's gonna
Yeah,
be,
but we already took action to remove the dryer.
right, how much was the dryer? 67,
6,400.
6,400.
Okay, so we already did that.
There should be a balance of 3,600 in that.
So we need to expend $3,600 out of that account for the convection.
So
No, you're gonna spend the whole thing and overspend it so that it's in the right spot.
So how much are we spending? 10 grand?
But we already did
Right.
some out of it. We need to do the balance out of it.
Yeah, but the balance is 10 grand.
The balance is
I
unknown.
mean, not the balance, but the expenditure is 10 grand. Is that correct?
Right.
it's gonna be pretty close to combined.
Combined,
Yes.
right.
Combined?
Combined is 10 grand.
Well, yeah, but this policy we already approved, 35. So
Right.
Yeah,
all we're doing is approving the 65 today.
No, it's the other way
It's the other
around.
way around.
It's the other way around.
We've already approved 65 for the dryer.
Are we
So
going
it's
to approve 35?
3,500, yes, we have to spend your 35.
So your motion should be to approve to move the remaining 3,500 in 24-70-300 into the 70-100 account, and the item will be expensed from the 70-100 account.
At the amount of 3,500?
It's gonna be
So
less.
it's gonna be a little more than that, or a little less than
A little
that.
less than that.
Oh, okay, so it'll be under budget then.
So as needed. So it's gonna go from 300 to the 100 and.
Okay, so I'm gonna spit this out and that's gonna
Wait a
be,
minute, we already have a motion on the floor, which is wrong. We're not expending 10
Is it
grand.
seconded?
no, it wasn't,
Yeah,
it
it's a
died,
rollback.
it's dead.
Yeah, there you
Okay, move to
Whoa,
expend,
whoa. You seconded that motion.
Yes, I'm drawing it.
okay, I'll,
He'll draw a second, I withdraw the motion, it's open now,
go.
the motion is in order, whatever that's gonna be,
I'm gonna move to expend $3,500,
up to. Up to,
up to $3,500 out of account E2470-300. Am I right?
no, we're gonna transfer the 300 into the 100 before we
Right.
spend it. So your motion is that we're gonna transfer,
We're gonna move to
3,500.
transfer.
we're gonna
Shoot,
move to
You should
transfer.
remind me if you have a transfer sheet.
Okay.
Can we table this and I'll do a transfer sheet and bring it back next meeting?
Please,
Easier, yeah,
Okay.
because we should have a transfer sheet anyways.
please, because
So-
I,
We're all in agreement, we're just gonna, yep, that'd be easier.
yeah,
Yeah, because it'll be right.
Update, tell you what's going on, how.
Yeah.
okay,
We had to buy a new confection oven, basically.
okay, which we agreed to.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you had one question about the jail
Removal,
employee removal.
Disposal of it, yeah.
Yeah, so I have a motion here because you asked for action to do that. But a couple of questions. This thing has no value. Iron Flag's not giving us any.
The whole, no.
Okay, so this is my motion. Move to allow the jail employee who asked for approval to remove the old convection oven from the county property following Iron Flag Company's removal from the facility, provided that Iron Flag will not be offering any trade-in value for the unit being hauled off. And I feel compelled to put that in there so that it's in the action that it has no value.
I tried to pull a trade on it, they said
Yeah.
there's too much work.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. You okay?
Yes, I said aye.
Yeah, okay. Very good, Tim.
Thank you.
Come again. Where are we going back to? RCC?
Airport, right?
Airport.
But you want to do the RCC, he's only got one item there.
There you go, thank you, yeah.
Poor guy.
Well, yeah, but it's a monthly report. A lot of times he'll spend half an hour talking about monthly report.
Well, he's not gonna.
As soon as he gets up there, I'm gonna move to accept and file RCC Director's Report as presented in his email dated September 5th, 2021.
Seconded.
And thank you for your thoroughness. I don't mean to.
You know, just real quickly, I looked at the report, I've been talking to Bob about it, and you know, me with the numbers and making the spreadsheet stands, and I'm seeing some increase in numbers that we need to talk about. And wondering, you know, where it's coming from, and, you know, thank goodness we have the third dispatchers, you know, from the past, so he does have a pretty serious jump in numbers. And, yeah,
When you say numbers, not.
calls,
Calls.
yeah, yeah,
And I just want to point out that we only have 3 people on one rotation.
working for
Yes,
this, right, right,
We've
right,
kind of played it by ear on the other rotations.
Yeah.
Basically, we have 2 rotations, people work a couple days on, a couple days off.
Yeah.
One rotation is short with our vacancy.
right, but compared to what we used to have.
But compared to what we used to
Yeah,
have.
and appreciation of the commissioner's support for it, yeah, that's kind of what, yeah, I'm just
Up
calling.
7 is the third for.
Are we running into overtime?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Some.
That's the other, yeah, we've talked, yeah,
And we've not filled that shift that time. I filled it, up till it wasn't busy anymore, just to try to help save. We've kind of split the difference. We haven't staffed it for full 12 hours. We only staffed it for 6 hours. You know, Megan sitting in basically 10 times a week. That's helping us save a little bit. We are trying. We've had record call numbers there for the last couple of months. Doesn't seem to slow down.
well, thanks.
Did we call a motion? Did we call a motion?
I'm not seeing anything.
No,
The
I
motion?
made it was seconded.
I
I
hadn't
don't
called.
think so.
No, I'm going to call all those in favor of the motion.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, Leroy. Put you off long enough.
No, I've been doing stuff here, so it's just working out great for me. I've been shuffling papers, getting ready for an FAA visit, so this is
Well,
just perfect.
I'm gonna move to accept and file the airport manager's report as presented.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Item B,
I'm gonna move to hire Christopher Harnage of Lemoyne as full-time airport maintenance worker at grade 8, step A, effective September 25th, as recommended by the airport manager.
Seconded.
discussion. This replaces the individual that came and went a couple times, and is that what this is?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see you finally got that filled. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. C,
I'm gonna move to approve the airport rescue grant offer in the amount of $1,049,720 and authorize the chair to sign the grant offer as recommended.
Seconded.
do we have that up here, Leroy? Is that something you're gonna send up?
I'll send it up. I think it's electronic anyway, so.
Yeah, this one wasn't, but we can print it off and so he can sign before he leaves.
I think we
Okay.
have it ready for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
They think it's ready for me, Leroy, so I'll try to get that before I leave today.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. D,
I'm gonna move to decline the airport rescue grant concessions relief fund offer and for the airport manager to make the notification as recommended.
Seconded.
discussion.
And to make it quick, just, it wasn't worth the time, essentially. Is that what we decided?
Right, and this one was even like a little bit different than the first couple. This one didn't even allow us to take 2% out of it. So it was, you had to devise a plan, you had to maintain the plan, and you got nothing for it.
I would expect it to be.
Well, that wasn't a state grant?
Yeah.
All right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anything else from the airport, Leroy?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Leroy.
you.
It's a record 3 minutes. Well, 4 actually. Close. The treasurer?
Well,
Yes.
the agenda item we're just discussing was the airport. We have an individual on Zoom who would like to comment. Is it reference that agenda item? Who is it?
Claire Mills.
Miss Mills? I think you're muted. I'm not sure. Do you wish to comment on the agenda item at the airport?
Maybe it was an error.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Now, we got to sync here. Where are we going? Oh, treasurer?
Yeah.
Oh, a new finance director. Isn't it good?
Well, quietly learning.
So at the warrants,
Mhm.
I'm gonna move to approve the August treasurer's warrants as presented.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. With regard to financials,
I'm gonna move to accept and file the financial statements as presented in the county administrator's memo dated September 8th.
Seconded.
I'll
Wait,
entertain.
I didn't see that up here, but
They were in the,
electronically.
They may not be in your book. or They're in the PDF though.
Okay.
You want my copy?
No, sorry. Never mind, never mind.
You want to see?
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Accounts receivable?
Looking good. We've been chasing a few late things, items, but I'm out at the airport, but other than that, it's mostly AIT. So
Which is like money in the bank.
pretty much, yes, yeah, some of the AIP for the state portion for Commissioner Parody's benefit, the state portion gets paid out after the project is completed.
Yeah.
Okay,
I assume we, right now, we haven't gotten much in from towns yet, right?
actually, I think, you know what, I had intended to put that, I think I did. If you look at,
Yeah, it's in the,
did I include that somewhere?
I didn't see.
The town taxes, is it?
Yeah.
It's way up at the top.
Oh, yeah, it's probably behind at the end of fund, just before the expenses on fund one. So 4 or 5 pages in, showing almost 24.5% collected today. And I know of at least 3 others, one pretty significant, have already come in since this, so. Yeah, they'll be rolling in.
Monica, at some point, would you sit down with Scott and ask him to show you, there's a couple reports from community benefit account. One of them's the Cba Funds, one of them's TIF monies. And about, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a year, we like to see that report, see it updated. Tells us where our money went, tells us how much we got on hand, what we received, so on and so forth. We haven't had that for a long time.
Okay.
So if,
It's in there.
CBA thing is in, it's in what?
It's in under fund 3. You want mine?
I don't have that.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Well, I'll make sure I train it the right way. Yep.
Well, where's this electronic file we're talking about? How do I access?
So you have that PDF, right?
it? I
In
can't.
fact, Rebecca sent you an email of all the commissioner documents.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
my problem is that when I'm home, I'm on my own computer and I have the same information, but when I get here, whatnot, I have like 100 emails
Yeah.
that I need to get rid of, and I just,
Oh,
so somewhere in this mess is it's there. I just can't find it.
I can forward it to you.
No, it's here, and I'm gonna take a minute, clean this thing up, whatnot, but it's not.
what I do is I save the, Bill, I save the PDF to my, well, I put it in a folder, but desktop would be a great place, and then I always have it. And if you just go click here, you can see all these documents and they come right up.
Yeah, do we put the PDF in the meeting file?
Yeah.
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 That's
But
what
I mean, I find it much easier just to, save the one that Rebecca sends, just save it to my desktop. That way it's always there if I ever want to look at it.
Yeah, nothing's changed because you haven't spent any money and the money hasn't come in, so.
So in the end, because of, what they get from this $5 million, we didn't have to worry all this year about doing it wrong or anything.
The tan,
For the foreseeable future, we should be pretty good on it. Next year.
yeah, I'd say just a couple more years, maybe.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So you're saving taxpayers' money right
We're not gonna realize any revenue from that transmission line when we cross that UT that way.
Which trains
The one that's in
the
East
sol,
Brook, Amherst.
the sol,
now. Yes.
There's no revenue.
well, one of the solar ones, the solar farm was still in discussion, but we haven't heard anything on that one yet. You talking about the new wind farms?
Yeah, the latest one that went up to East Brook, Amherst or something, that, and the transmission line went across UT. We thought maybe we could get some revenue from that, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, well, that'd be a question for Miller, because if it did go across, seems like they would have had to have some communication.
And we're still hoping to hear something on the solar project, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm not sure where that is.
Update, maybe since,
Which one, Dwayne?
Oh, yeah,
Dwayne Jordan?
yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
have you seen the action on, gosh, I don't get the right You know where the ball fields are?
180.
Thank you. 180, as you just head out there. And on the right-hand side, they've got a lot of posts in. I've been wondering what that is. It's a solar farm. Is it a solar farm on the opposite side too?
I think it's going to be,
Yeah, looks like a housing developer, a nice place for a housing
Yeah.
development, the way they got it landscaped.
First, we went up everywhere. There's one on the Washington Junction Road right there, but yeah, Bluebird Field, there's a big one going up
Yeah.
there.
Maybe they got in first and Dwayne is, Jordan is facing capacity issue. I don't know.
We knew that he had the transmission line.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's move along then if we can. Item 13, need to set a hearing date for, is this the one?
You missed the other one, 12?
Yeah, 12.
Oh, wishful thinking, I guess.
Well, item A, it sounds like we don't need to take any action on. That's just informational, right?
well, you won't need to take action on it today, but you
In
will,
the future.
yes.
And what action would that be?
Well, so in a nutshell, the way Maine PERS works right now is employees have one chance to enroll, and that's upon hire. And they have to either enroll or decline, and then that's it, they're stuck. The legislature made they enacted two laws that allow changes to that, to the one-time election. So from what I understand, it's been passed in the legislature, but the rules have to be adopted by Maine PERS Board of Trustees, which is their meeting this week. If they adopt that language, which it looks like they're going to, then we need to take action, you need to take action to determine whether or not you want those rule changes in our plan. So essentially what the rule change is that affects us is that in addition to that one-time election, well, instead of that one-time election, employees would have the option within the first 5 years of their employment to enroll. If they choose no in the beginning, they can enroll later on. But if they enroll later on, it's on a post-tax basis. So it's after taxes.
For all the time that they're in PERS?
Yeah. Mhm.
So I was trying to figure out what the downside of that could possibly be.
I don't think that there is one, really. I think you're giving employees another opportunity to get into this plan if they want to. If they change their mind down the road, it's definitely better for them to get in on a pre-tax basis, but, it is their option. So you're really just providing them with another option. I'm not sure that there is a downside.
What do you suppose they did the post, just incentive to join?
I think it has to do, I don't know, but I think it has to do with specific IRS and federal law requirements. I think they're bound by those.
So they're gonna tax your post for money that goes into it, and they're gonna tax you again when you take it out.
When you take it out, yeah.
We call that theft, anybody else in the government,
Yeah.
or
So-
big business, big business.
So the magic date is November 1st. It happens November 1st if they approve the changes at their meeting. Then by November 1st, you would need to act to include that in our plan.
And you'll get that done. Right?
Yes, I will.
So you're right, Paul, it's just information today, but at some point we're gonna have to take action. Anything further with regards to that? Let's move on then to COVID policy, Scott.
Yeah, so with things kind of changing fairly rapidly here, I don't currently see it. But in a nutshell, I'm just bringing it to the commissioners to kind of, I guess, re-up the authorization or the conversation that if I felt the need to, that I would, contact the commissioners, contact the chair. In other words, we wouldn't have to wait for another meeting in order for me to change something. If we have to go mask up,
Yeah,
then I can make it happen like in a few minutes, a few hours. Yeah.
and the way things stand, you can do that now.
Yes.
So this doesn't require action either.
Well, it did under the emergency and we kind of left the emergency. So I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page before I go do something. And yeah. But again, I would send you all an email, probably have a conversation with the chair after having a conversation with Sankey as one, and probably end with Rebecca, and then, and then I would start action. That's all it is.
The next item, the, sounds like we just should simply let those expire, and that doesn't require any action either.
Correct.
Is that the will of the wish of the board
Yes.
to let it expire? Okay. So we're moving to D.
Yeah. You have that, a copy of that. I believe it's some form. And, after I went through it, I sent it back to Beck, and she's gone through it, and then once Monica came on board, I had her review it, and we're all okay with it.
Sounds like a plan.
So I'm gonna move to approve the finance director job descriptions, finance director's job description as presented and recommended.
Seconded. Motion made and seconded. Always curious whether or not any language is going to conflict with statutory authority of the treasurer.
I think it recognizes the statutory, I guess the conflict would come from if the treasurer, decided to do something outside of the statutory authority. I don't see any issues at this moment. I think it respects the treasurer elected position and works within it.
Gentlemen, anything further with regards to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And as you see, Monica's been sitting here with us all day. I don't know if you have anything to say, but we've had, well, it's only been 3 full days and then today, but things are going well.
Till today.
Yeah,
had to sit in this
I told her, I said, then if you come back Thursday, then we'll work on, anyway. Yep, the date.
Moving on, we need to set a hearing date for this abatement hearing. Was this the one that had to be set before October something,
Yeah, he's headed to Florida. I want to say it's on the 7th or the 8th.
7th of October?
So October 5th works.
That's our first regular meeting?
Right, and right now, as of right now, on the 28th, you have 2 more out of Sullivan to hear, first hearing on them. I don't.
You're going to recommend that we set a special day just for budget preparation sometime between now and the 28th, is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's an item in here, yeah.
Well, I'm still very concerned that we didn't have this discussion with regards to the value of appraisals by the applicants that I would love to have seen this morning with Ed Barrow. I just wish there was something we could do.
Well, there actually is something we can do. And there's some counties do it. They don't hear
What, abatements?
abatements.
Well, I think that's,
They let them go to
Superior.
well, I think that's unfortunate. I think that's,
I agree, but
Yeah, I thought you were going with, having the county's own board of review, but.
well, that's, that doesn't need a charter.
I was thinking that in the back of my mind, I might have was gonna check on that, but I could ask because I have an email from Saginaw County that talking about that, so,
I think that's
but,
causing as much work and headache as trying to take care of themselves. I'm definitely not in favor. I think that's malfeasance of duty and whatnot, to simply ignore those. What I would like to do is somehow somehow do something to give us a better sense that Supreme Court, a Superior Court decision remand back to us, that we understand the value and how much consideration we should be giving to applicants' appraisals.
Is there a possibility that you could come up with more of a document for us, rather than having a work session? Session. I'm just wondering.
Well, I'm wondering, there's a couple, yeah, that's one thing we could do. I'm just wondering,
Well, here's how I take that. I take it that that is a piece of evidence. You know, that an appraisal is a piece of evidence. And it's gonna differ from case to case. You know, what weight you put on that for a whole host of reasons. In this case, in you know, the one that we didn't hear the appeal today, my opinion, that is the only piece of evidence that was provided. That, so, you know, that is an example of a place where it would have more prominence than potentially another case. So that's how I'm taking it.
and I guess that's one way of looking at it, is that if the town's not going to provide sufficient rebuttal evidence to an appraisal, they risk us accepting the appraisal. But there's a side of me that says, if we understood appraisals better, perhaps we could do a better job of evaluating the value of that appraisal by looking at it, challenging the appraisal, not challenging, but discussing that with the appraiser and reaffirming that we can agree that, you know, I'm wondering if it's kind of radical, but that we couldn't find two appraisers to come here, sit down at the table and whatnot, and talk to us about appraisals. In other words, we even take this appraisal from the one and said, what is it in this that we should be looking at? What is this that we might find challenging? What is this, you know? A good example is that if you looked at that appraisal, the appraiser gave several comps from other communities. But every one of those comps that she gave, she adjusted downward the value of that property. And so they all ended up mirroring the 135,000 that she quoted for the Sullivan property. And yet there's no documentation in there as to what that adjustment was based on. And so I'm thinking,
Well,
if we understood how adjustments are made to an appraisal for comps and whatnot, then maybe.
a long time ago, I was part of a finance class. Appraisals were, you know, and that was not, it's not cut and dry. It's, a lot is left to the discretion of the appraiser. They do have to substantiate it somehow, and that's why their reports are so long, but it's not as cut and dry as we're all trying to make it out to be.
An appraisal,
Appraisal.
absolutely not.
And a lot of it is opinion. That's what you're paying for. So that's why, to me, it's almost a case by case basis, and you know, you weigh that piece of evidence against other pieces of evidence.
But
It's nothing more than that.
We have a 47-page appraisal, and the only thing we look at is the bottom line appraisal number. So there's 46 pages in there, and we have no idea what they even represent. Now, because of the article in the paper, we had two realtors, get into a discussion, two realtors in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They both talked about how subjective appraisals were. And they said, if you took a piece of property and you have the individual that owned it, hired an appraiser and said, I'm selling this property, give me the highest appraisal you can support. Then you had a buyer for that property who hired another appraiser, said, give me the lowest that you could. He said, you would be shocked at the disparity between those two amounts. So when we look at Knowlton, you have to say to yourself, she had to know that it would be appreciated by the Knowltons if she lowballed that as much as she could support. And so how do we evaluate that appraisal in light of the fact that the discretion, the opinion of the appraiser lowered the value of that?
It's almost like you need a blue book, new, used, retail.
Yeah, well, but, it's not that simple. And the thing is with appraisal, first of all, there is a code of ethics for appraisers, and they do have to maintain but you're right. There could be some disparity, and that's why it's a piece of evidence in the big picture.
But how do you challenge evidence you don't understand? So in other words, if you looked at the appraisal done on the local case there, what set out in front of it, how could you evaluate that appraisal and say, I'm going to challenge your adjustment you made to the Franklin property in the amount of $37,000?
But that's what the opposing.
Well, I know
party
it,
should
I
have.
know it, but we're going to get appraisals from other abatements. And there is going to be conflicting evidence, but not so much challenging the appraisal, but there's going to be other comps perhaps or something.
So, I mean, I think you're right. There's going to be variations. Having just watched our, last night that hearing, so the appraiser, from my memory of it, is that she had to do the downward appraisals, and she acknowledged that because there wasn't any sales that are comparable in Franklin to what they were assessing at. And so she had nothing to do other than, there's just the sales. So she had to try to find the thing that was closest and then make her educated assessment of what the value of the property was. So I think it's just one of those things. Like I said with the other, like it's part of the job. We're just going to sit there and look and see, well, this sale comp is, from all indications, seems to be a good comp. And this one, we've had that downward appraisals, had a downward assessments had to be done on it to try to make a comparison. Sometimes you're gonna have to judge those ones with a bagel. It's just not as valid, right? So you're gonna really have to put them
Yeah,
on.
do you want me to, do you
I
want
wrote
me
the
to?
number down here. I wrote the number down here. And if we ever get the resolution, the settlement between Sullivan and the Northwoods, we'll compare it to that number. See how because that would have been the number that I was supported today.
I'm just a little leery of some of the discussion because this may
Me too.
come back, so I just was,
We
Yeah, and I know you-
just the normal thing.
yeah, we're talking about that, yeah. And so I was just gonna offer if you want me to reach out, I mean, you talk about appraisal, but I still think, I think you should be careful with.
Let's just.
Let
see
me
what
reach
the-
out to Ed and see if he has anything he can send us in writing or a
But it
recommendation.
bothered me what Ed said and what the court said with regards to how much emphasis they gave to the appraisal.
I
And
hear you.
if this is just unique to the Norton case, it's fine, but if this is something that we should be giving a lot of consideration to with all abatements, we need to know that. And I don't know what, and we're looking at two other solid ones, we're looking at an appeal now from Dedham, and how many of these people are coming in with appraisals? Now, if we accepted appraisals face value, regardless, that's a slippery slope. You can
Yeah.
just-
No, I would never advocate for anything remotely.
Right, yeah.
I think
Piece of evidence.
I think we asked Ed, and I think he said something about the appraisal is the value on this particular, one, something like that. I can't remember how we put it. So I don't know what to do, but anyways, we need to set a date. So what are you talking?
October 5th, good for that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
Move to set the date of October 5th for the Woodrow versus Town of Dedham adjustment, abatement appeal application here.
and I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. So there's no date been set for the other Sullivan ones, Scott?
Yeah, the 28th.
The 28th for the two
28th
Sullivans?
for the two Sullivans.
And
And the only other one is note number 2, and that should be
so
taken,
we got back-to-back
looks
abatements.
like it might be taken care of, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if that would, What if the Norfolk settlement would prompt them to sit down? So that could be good.
It would be sage advice or action.
All right, and we get a workup sheet from Scott prior to that, so that we can review those, sit down and study that, so we have some sense of what the appeals are.
Yeah, I mean, unless they submit something, I have binders all set for the 228.
We do have them already.
Yep.
It's the same property manager, but different landowners.
Yes, that's as daring as I'll get to, knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You still need to set a date too, right, for having another meeting.
You can do that now before you get to the, or wait till, oh, yeah, there it is, schedule next budget workshop, yeah.
Well, that's after that. Okay, so we've got to go work through all these budget things. Are we taking a lunch break and then do that, or are we diving right into that? Diving right into that.
Yeah, that's your call, boys.
I'm gonna eat something. while
I gotta
we're
go
working.
visit the
Yeah, we can take a, yeah.
Okay, we're in recess.
5-minute recess. I could too.
This, everybody that needs to be here, right? All right, gentlemen, I'm going to work on RCC budget. Direct your attention. Department 7. We'll start with revenues.
So misplace that page.
Oh, yeah,
Some reason I don't have that page.
yeah,
I don't.
talk about it, slide it up. So you can see it, there you go. The numbers are right here, you got 161.1 right now.
Well, if you didn't raise your fees, how come the revenue figure is up slightly?
So what I believe's happened there is we brought the town of Trenton on board. For some reason, that didn't get calculated in last year's revenue. So we've taken in 100, we're projected to take in 161,000 this year. So they just basically changed that line item to what we're actually taking in. That makes sense. So
And how do those, do we set those fees?
you set those fees, correct? So
But the fee is based upon census because it's so much per.
correct,
Per
correct,
capita.
And
So we have a formula.
there's a formula to utilize. Right now, we're still working off the 2010 census because the only data that I've found so far is what the Elderly American, they put in their article, but I can't find anything that supports those numbers. So without going out and saying, okay, some towns have grown, some towns have lost people. But there's no, we looked on the Census Bureau maybe this last week, there's no numbers posted yet. But these numbers are based on the dispatching contracts we have with the towns that we do dispatching for.
Okay, so those are contractual amounts.
Correct.
We can't set a new fee schedule until the next.
Well,
contract.
you can change the amount that we charge per capita. It's the number it's the per capita number. We can't calculate that because we don't have good population. If that makes sense. So like, normally what happens is it's, there's so much for law enforcement, there's so much for the fire department, there's so much for the ambulance services, and then there's a different scale for those that do combined services. Like fire, like the first responders, the fire and medical folks, things like that. So they're roughly, I don't have the number on top of my head, it's like $2.30 per capita per individual.
So the reason I'm asking that question is, when was the last time that those fees were?
We raised them year before last,
Okay.
3%.
So,
We had been doing about 3%, and then COVID struck, we took the line because everybody was having revenue stream was tight,
including ours.
including ours. So we held the line. Again, as I went through trying to figure out why we were bringing in more money than we projected, as I brought Trenton on board a year or so, or year and a half ago. And I didn't calculate last year's numbers. So
Would you adjust fees if you got the census?
I think we would start looking at it. Scott and I talked a little bit, maybe not this year, but next year. Because,
So even if you got the fees by now in December, you.
well, we do send the bills out in January. We haven't told any town that we aren't raising. And part of our contracts with towns, it's those numbers are set by the commissioners annually, which we've done.
So this isn't reshuffling the 161, it could change that number. The census could change the number.
The census could change, correct?
Yeah.
This basically just accounted for the one department that I had not accounted for earlier. That just brings the revenue in line with what we're actually bringing in based on the current rates.
Because like the department totals, that's grown by almost 11%, right? And yet we're not raising our fees by 11%. So that means that the communities are the communities are paying instead of the users.
Well,
If I can
so
describe it like that, right? So we're shifting.
that is true. Our whole, this is purely the contracts or the towns that we have contracts with dispatch. We still have the PSAP side of it that all towns pay for. So for example, like we don't charge Bar Harbor dispatch fees because they have one set up, but we still operate as a PSAP
For that.
for the 911 center. So you're still providing service.
And that PSAT, those amounts are not coming through.
They're not coming through in revenue. No, this is purely for, yeah.
But you bring up a good point, because the number that the census goes back to, or the population number, that has a base number in itself that's determined from that. That base number is a proportion of the cost for the entire department. So the department, the costs have increased, as you pointed out, 11%. But but none of that, no portion of that has been passed along to that base number. And I've said that for a few years, but for one reason or another, we shift away from it.
The base number is what we're charging for specific services, not PSAP services, right?
Correct,
Right.
Yeah.
right.
So, I'm just trying to disprove my thinking. My thinking is that this revenue should be growing by this amount.
At least a portion of, I agree with that. I haven't,
Because unless the distribution between PSATs and this is changed, doesn't sound like it has.
no, so it goes on the tax roll.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
increasingly, to me, that's got to be dealt with sooner than later, because that disparity is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger over time, because we're not changing
Right.
these revenues. I'm shoot a hole in my thinking.
No, and I think that was the whole point along, was the kind of that the annual increase would kind of sort of take care of that for the most part. I mean, generally, when at the end of budget time, this year's gonna be a lot different. If we're looking at 4s and 5s, we try to start trimming down. But generally, you're especially larger number, your payroll numbers are, because the equipment's gotta be there no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's really personnel. Correct, or
If he raised his fees, the dispatching services by 11%, it wouldn't cover the 11% of his budget.
right,
No, of course not,
right.
But
because a portion of that has to be covered
that
by
would
the
only be
PSAT.
passed on to the departments that we dispatch for directly. And it wouldn't be passed on to, say, Harbor or Bucksport. The towns that we have the most calls of service from don't pay us to dispatch. They pay county tax, which part of that is 11% is paid for through PSAP services for personnel. So if that makes sense.
Oh, I see what you're.
Yeah, so we have basically two pots of money. We have money through taxation. We offset that by charging fees to the towns that we directly dispatch.
So your point is, which is a good counter to my question, is that this growth
Mhm.
in your budget is not dictated by this. It's dictated by the call volume, which happens to be coming from not these folks.
We don't look at it purely by call volume, but it's their share of our operation.
So just to continue with your thought, though, is that, yes, it's not going to save, it's not going to match the 11% pushed on the revenue, it's not going to match 11% of the expenses, because the base number is two different numbers.
Yeah,
However, whatever you do transfer into the paying towns reduces the other towns' taxation. Not a lot, but I mean, that's essentially what it would do.
yeah, that's why I'm asking the question,
Right.
because, it's all about equity.
Really?
Say that one more time, we'll slap you. I think that the key here is that it may be very difficult to do this, to make sure though the towns you're providing services to directly, dispatching, let not pay their fair share.
Yeah,
That the tax levy isn't affected by these people getting a service that other towns aren't getting.
well, and the point is that this is not going up at all. It's only going up by the amount because of trend. So their rates are not going up, yet our expenses are. So that's why, the only
And a
reason
part
I'm
of that-
having this discussion is that I think that these revenues should be higher because of that.
I think a part of it, I agree, a part of it should,
So how do we, do you agree or?
are you, what is it? What is your, is it like no more than 3? Is that the agreement? I think there is.
No, there's never really been an agreement. We just
Oh.
kind of kept it at 3. It was previous director for several years, I guess the county hadn't updated, hadn't raised the fees at all. And then they did a 6% one year, which raised a lot of help. Heck, a bunch of towns. And then after that, it was basically 3% each year. Because we also have towns that go in fiscal year and towns that go in calendar years. I always get the question, what's our fees this year? I usually tell them plan for 6 and expect 3 because somewhere in between that'll work out. Again, we didn't raise them last year because of COVID. It kind of felt this year because we don't know what the census is. I hate to do one thing, raise it 3% and then find out that October we have the numbers and then we turn around and reassess them again. It's a big number.
Well, yeah, but if we don't,
Well, if you give the increase, that also could buy you time so that you don't have to worry about the census till next year.
Yeah.
Apply. And at some point in next year, if you apply, but you could give you time to forewarn them. If you have the census and then you could give a projection, census and an increase.
I'm only one person here. Do you understand what I'm suggesting?
Oh, yeah, and I
How do
think
you think that would go over, Bob? An increase, a 3% increase?
I think we did a 3% increase this year and then did the census next year. That'd probably be easier to follow. I think doing both the same year.
I agree.
Like I said, some of these towns are scraping by as it is.
Yeah,
But I think so, that's just a portion of the towns that we actually provide services for. So I hate to, again, try to make up as much money as we can on the.
oh no, I'm not advocating that. In fact, you wouldn't get in that position unless you went higher, a rate higher than this. If you kept the rates consistent, then you're not getting in that position. But I do think this needs to be adjusted because it's just gonna bite us later.
and you're better off doing low increments more
Right.
often.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, you understand.
And I don't think it's arbitrary at all, because you're showing here, you've given us some reasons why this is 11%.
So do we want to, because this is one of those opportunities where if everybody's in agreement, I'm going to change your figure. You want to add 3% to this number?
Yeah, and how did we arrive at that 3%? To me, I see how you arrive at 10.5%.
Right.
Now, I also see how, 10.5 might not make sense because of the reasons you stated. But
I think, I don't know that, we just use 3%. We've kind of done that just because of cost. Well, it's been kind of the customary thing, but also not to, again, those towns that, do their calendar or their fiscal year, suddenly we up their dispatch rates. They hadn't, and they still have 6 months of their annual year that we raise them. So
what's COLA?
So you think, what?
What's COLA?
Oh, I don't have any idea. What do you think 5 or 6 would fly? Well, that tells me.
I probably,
Well,
I won't go to the next county meeting.
No. But I'm just trying to justify a number. That's all. And
Well, I mean, I think,
can you Google? Hold on for this year.
2022?
That wouldn't be okay.
I got 2021, Social Security COLA was 1.3.
Yeah.
Again, there's
Social Security COLA.
variation, so that's still,
So we can't go much above 3.
I think you're facing backlash from towns.
And we're not talking.
So would that compute to a full 3% increase over the 161?
Was it 161, 161,000 even?
161 to 1.
Yeah, so 165, 830, can you figure?
165, 830?
Yeah. Or almost $5,000.
Not significant.
You agree with that, Bob?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the expenditure budget.
So what that does is lower this number. No, excuse me.
It'll lower the tax
Tax
assessment,
assessment.
the actual assessment, yeah. Again, all the payroll numbers were provided to Bob from me. They reflect the contractual. So I'll let him, unless you have questions up there, I'll let him start off with. Do you have a copy of this one? Okay. I guess, until I can figure out the computer, I'm gonna have to get used to doing it this way. Well, are you guys looking at your books so that?
Yeah.
Yep.
You
Well,
paying any attention to this?
No.
Good, I'll bring it down here.
I have those pages.
Okay.
My travel and training registrations, those are same, I didn't raise all of those. They're going to be back to in-person trainings for most of the dispatch trainings that if we do that.
you're, where about?
I'm on the 07-100 and 07-600 employee
You
expenses.
know, let's back up. Please.
You back up?
You've increased your overtime,
Mhm.
but it doesn't even come woefully close to your 5-year actual or your this year's actual. Are you just digging a hole here, Bob?
No, I think actually last year you put in more and I think you reduced it, didn't you?
That was a year, well, we reduced it last year and then we ended up spending more.
His actual in 20 was 133, his projected actual is gonna be 130,
Right.
and his 5-year average is 135, and he's only asking for 115, so I'm just wondering, is it time to be realistic about what this number is?
Well, if there's any year to do it, it would be this one. This one.
Because I'm suggesting 125 is a much more realistic number. He'd be damn lucky to make that.
Because getting new people and that kind of thing.
And I think it would.
It seems like every year it's a different reason, but
It is. We had one year where we were way under for some reason. And the following year, unfortunately, we have people that have vacations and which is really hard to calculate because some take the comp time.
So you agree with 125?
Sure.
and if you look at the year-to-date for first 6 months, it's 62, so that's 124.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're gonna change that to 125 for overtime. Okay. Obviously, that's gonna change some of these employee cost numbers, but that's not for us.
I'll put new sheets in your book once.
Yep. Okay, Bob, where were you when I?
I was down employee expenses down on line 7-100, travel mileage and training registration. The new change in numbers.
Okay, we don't have any changes.
I dropped the uniforms just a little bit. And the only other real increases were the maintenance and repair line, 200, 20-100 and 20-200. One of those increases was purchase docking stations for our remote computers that we have to go somewhere else that we can hook up mouse, keyboard, and another monitor. Those they're a little hard to dispatch. Those little tough books are a little hard to dispatch remotely from. So that was for line 20-100. The 20-200 for equipment. I asked to raise that. We have the new radio consoles, but we're maintaining one of the old backup, as a backup, which, there's no, Browns could do a modified, there's no, number one, there's no Motorola support for them anymore. So it would be a local repair only, and they provided me a number for, the service contract that I kind of hesitant to do. Because if we have no issues being a backup radio, that's just money we're giving them. That is not a repair item, we're still gonna have to buy the repair parts anyway. So my thought was raise that up a little bit so that we have money there to repair those if needed, but not commit ourselves to a contract that we may or may not use. Because again, this will be spare radio. And we found a couple other areas, if we have to send them up to one of the tower sites to do some work, that, we had taken that out of contractual before, but it kind of put us pretty close to our limit. So just to give us a little bit of leeway on some equipment repairs as well. And not have it under the contractual side. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're doing this because you think in the end that we're gonna save money.
I think so. Yeah, it was almost a couple $1,000s for them to have a contract to be on call, but we're still gonna end up having to buy the parts anyway or cannibalize them, and it's.
And it's not a piece of equipment.
It's about, and we have 2 spares because we have 3 consoles now that hopefully will be replaced in the next week or so, and so we'll have one in the back console and 2 are sitting on the shelf as backups to that. So I just couldn't see having a maintenance contract on a spare piece of equipment that literally if it breaks, we swap it out.
Okay, so we go down to service contracts, Bob, and I'm just curious as to why we're including a capital expense in the service contract line. Why aren't we bringing that down to equipment line? How much of that increase is the new console?
It's, the new console is, it's about $8,000, give or take. And I say that because the original Motorola console's annual contract was $9,000 and change. The new Avtech radio console contract is $15,000 and something. So I basically split the difference and added the additional $8,000. That makes sense.
So that's for a piece of equipment.
That's for the 3 new radio consoles that was the,
Yeah, but are those service contracts
that's service contract.
or console?
Well, it's service contract on the radio consoles.
So it's not buying a new console?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
This is service contract.
I was wondering, okay, sorry.
Okay.
It kind of confused me every second.
So it's service contracts for
For the brand new,
regular annual cost and then for the new.
Plus we have a new one, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, that is confusing.
and then some of our other annual increases, for the guitar rentals.
Okay, so that's a known amount. I mean, that's what it's gonna cost, right?
Mhm.
Okay, the hell, what you gonna do about it?
Now, to check our math, basically, that's $1 million. We're kind of close to it. To run the RCC. How provide the service, the dispatch services is what percentage of that $1 million?
15%.
Probably,
No, I don't mean, in your head, not, like,
I mean,
those,
18% of revenue is what we bring in, basically out of our overall annual budget. Probably, I'm guessing, I'd guess 75% of that is personnel costs of my overall budget. That's between salary and.
no, what I'm saying is to provide the dispatch services that are reflected in the revenues. How much of your effort is that? Just trying to check the math.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is we've had the conversation
Yeah,
before and
yeah.
thought of tackling it, but haven't gotten there yet. And
And I'm not looking for it, I'm just like, you're the expert.
Right. Well, I think by nature of the fact that we have the contract with these towns, it's probably a good 40%. But those towns are also paying taxes that also, I mean, there's.
That's not reflected here.
Because this is purely, I mean, we're still answering the 911 calls, you're still doing the the
Oh, so
other,
you're
the law
saying,
enforcement work, because we also, because again, the service contracts are purely for the fire and EMS folks and the part-time police departments. We're still dealing with the sheriff's office, we're still doing medical services for the towns that above and beyond the.
You understand?
I do, and I don't think it can be answered today, but if that's
I mean,
something
that's my
that,
best guess.
yeah, because we would have to sit down, it'd be
Right.
nice if I could see the old thought process. But and I think that's where we kind of stop, at, hey, hey, Bob, can you, well, we'll look for it, and then we just, until it gets to this point.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to create work.
But the 40, it's always intrigued me, but the 40%, I think you're talking, that's the number of towns that
Well,
are,
I'm
Right.
just saying,
Of the
based, I'm
work,
just thinking in my head based on, if we're dispatching,
Right.
say, the Orland Fire, they have 100 calls a year, give or take,
yeah,
120 calls a year. The sending them out, the recording of their things, the support of them on the scene.
yeah, can we do it by calls? And again, I'll shut up.
Yeah,
You and I ought to sit down and talk about that.
I was just trying to I'm just trying to
Which is
justify.
another reason why it should be at least 3% every year. I mean, I agree. If you established a base and the base, the number that's built off of increases 4 or 5%, then by theory, the base, unless there's a figure that jumps in there that says, well, it has nothing to do with this over here.
But it's not that objective, though, is it?
Well, it can be more than not. I don't think it's been visited for a long time, which is always kind of, it hasn't been since I've been here.
I mean, you almost have to have a stopwatch. I mean,
I think there's things that you have to consider if you're gonna do that, is there's a lot of support. I mean, we do. I mean, fire and EMS work that we deal with is pretty small compared to the overall thing that we do down there. I mean, we have, on a portion of the day, and, all the law enforcement complaints, I mean, we do a very large portion of what we do every day is for the sheriff's office, supporting our operations. And the 911 call volume, which may or may not include the towns that we collect revenue from, for example. I'll use an example, say, the town of Trenton doesn't provide medical service, but yet we take a medical call to the town of Trenton, we have to do the call taking, the medical dispatch portion of it. Then we have to notify another agency to go scoop the patient up, and we're out of it, unless they can't do it. Now we're sending another part of this EMS shortage that I alluded to in my report, where we're going out and starting another agency, whether it's Bar Harbor Ambulance or Bucksport Ambulance or Peninsula that we do dispatch for. They've already paid for that contract service. So it's a really hard number to capture. And we also have a lot of support work that we do for, calls that we have nothing to do with, like, the overturned kayak off Bar Harbor. We're dealing with the Coast Guard, which is, never dealt with Coast Guard, that's a lot of fun. Marine Patrol, we're coordinating resources for towns that we don't provide a service. Or that's just some examples, or the visitor who, the daughter is in Georgia at some hotel off by the airport, who's just called them, texted them, said, Mom, Dad, goodbye, I'm killing myself. They call 911 because they're on top of Cadillac. This is a true story. That, oh my God, my daughter's in Georgia getting ready to commit suicide. Well, we can't just be like, well, call Georgia. We have to go through the process of trying to figure out. So, I mean, there's a lot of those things and actions that we do that really don't relate to the towns that we provide dispatching services.
So you think this is fair?
I think it's, I mean, we have some towns that get, we don't charge them by the call, we charge them per capita. We have towns out, like Aurora or Osborne that may have 20, 30 calls a year. We charge them per capita. So, we may be making out on that end, and we may not be making out for the town that has 300 calls a year with 600 people. So,
Okay, back in your budget. The last item, is the 10,000 for equipment in your reserve account, just building that reserve?
At the moment,
It's just a building. So you understand, gentlemen, he's got 60,000 in there and he wants to add another 10 and build that equipment account for the day.
Yeah, that's a CIP.
Yeah,
account. Yeah.
yeah, but he you don't have a piece of equipment that you're,
I don't have it currently because fortunately with EMA, they've helped us out a lot on radio communication equipment grants, but
so he's building his reserve account for equipment, even though he doesn't have an equipment, piece of equipment that he's buying.
nothing in mind at the moment. I mean, I think we will end up with a new dispatch console at some point. If we suddenly find ourselves in need of a fifth station, I have that money set aside for that.
Okay,
That would be probably $30,000.
so what's the new bottom line number, Scott? Now?
I got 953,440.
440?
Yeah, because we added 10.
Well, we had it was 10, yeah.
All right, gentlemen, anything more with RCC budget? We all set with that? Okay, thank you, Bob. I'm going to jump over commissioners and go right to probate.
Lincoln.
So if we could move to probate.
You have your sheets in front of you?
Good afternoon, young lady.
Hello.
Where?
Probate is.
Department 8.
Right.
That's not on.
You don't have
No.
the budget in the PDF, but you should have a budget book.
Yeah. No, but I'm looking at the agenda.
I skipped around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically,
Yeah, she's sitting here waiting, so.
you know. Monica, are you here to hear all the budget information or just the treasurer's office?
No, all of it.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
that's what I
I'm
thought.
just here
So that's why.
learning and listening.
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah, that's right.
And me, this is my first one.
Okay, so let's go down through your revenues first. Let's see. We like those increases.
So, one of my questions is, that 161 seems like it's based off the budgeted. Well, I guess I should ask, how is that based?
The total
Yeah, the 161.5.
is, yeah, that's the compilation of the numbers above, which,
Yeah,
yeah.
but you're under budget on most of them. In other words, you compared the actual, your estimated actual,
Yeah, that's,
you're quite a bit below that. Well, you're
Oh,
14,000.
okay, I see where you're going. Yeah, yeah. That's why we kind of trigger towards, because there could be a good month in there that inflates the estimates, the actuals, those are estimates again. And so then my second place that I look at is my 5-year average, and if you look at that number, it's 164,695.
Yeah,
That was more
Yeah.
the line that I was following.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to avoid the roller coaster, but yeah,
and when you look at actual estimated for 21, that's really just twice what the June actual was, right?
yeah, and
So-
I see one of the things that stands out is publications, which that's really repayment, it's sort of a pass-through, it's repayment for an expense. It's a reimbursement for an expense. So now when they place an ad, how it's done in probate is they charge it off as an expense. And then when we get the payment, there's a little bit of a increase there, a little bit of a surplus.
So anything with regards to the revenues, John? Move to expenditures.
Okay, so I worked with Scott and pretty much all of the personnel services numbers he completed for me. So let's, in my opinion, start at the expenses 07-100 travel. You'll see that I did increase those. It's my anticipation that as a consequence of COVID, costs are going up. That's going to include mileage. It's going to include flights. It's going to pretty much include any hospitality. We have a judge that goes to conferences and continuing education for judicial matters. And I'd also like to be able to allow my clerks to travel for, the possibility to travel for also continuing education.
Jumping back to personnel, that's all contractual. Right, that just as it was the
It's not contractual, but
Yeah, it's not contractual,
it's
just
kind of
standard,
policy. They're not, these are not really contractual.
per the wage scales, put
Mhm.
it that way, yeah.
For county wage scale.
Yeah, I guess I should have said contractual.
So John, the question is, do you want to approve her $1,000 increase for travel? Any problem with that?
No, that's, I mean,
Well, I mean, what's the possibility that this COVID thing gets as bad next year as it was this year? We don't travel at all.
It's hard to say really, that there really hasn't been any costs because of COVID, but when hopefully we're past that and fully open, I know that there's already increased cost to traveling right now. So I'd like to plan for further increase in costs of traveling.
yeah, we're not talking,
And if there's no travel, it'll be right there waiting for us. Postage, she's going to increase that by $500.
wish we had control of that.
I wish,
We're going to sell postal service to UPS, so we'll see how that goes. Let's move on to contractual services.
the first line item there, 30-105 statutes. Scott and I discussed this line. I need to do some more investigating. You'll notice there's been a bit of a roller coaster with that line. I'm confident that I can keep it at the lower end once my research is done. I think we might be over purchasing. But I've been having a hard time communicating with the actual service vendors. I'm reaching nobody that I can actually speak to about the previous costs. For example, you'll see in the 2021 budget, it was 4,000. There has been some sort of alternate year increase in costs. But neither Scott or I have been able to pinpoint why that is.
If you remember, well, at least two of you, that last year, this was a discussion as to trying to substantiate as to why this happened and, you know, circumstances, we didn't get a straight answer, but.
Well, is this all electronic? But you're not buying hard copies anymore, are you?
No, we do get some statute books. We like to have one, at least two, one for the judge to reference on the bench and one for the office staff to use. And those are physical printed books.
But you
I
buying-
think the
you buying-
other part that is fluctuating is the electronic
Are you buying the
subscriptions.
full volume or just,
No,
no?
no, I'm just buying 18C. But I think there's an electronic component that has been carried over for years, if not decades, that might not be utilized by this office. I'm having a hard time communicating with the vendor to get any information on it. So until I am able to clarify and confirm what those services are, I'm just setting the budget at 2,000.
Yeah, well, you call it a roller coaster, but the amounts there are so small.
Yeah.
It's not material.
Legal fees, so, tell us what that is.
So the probate code has gone through a substantial revision. And I think it's been about 30 years since it had been updated. And as part of that update, the legislature really looked at the guardianship and conservatorship aspect of the code. And that's when an individual is considered incapable of making their own decisions, both for the person or for their finances. When we're talking about an individual's personal rights and responsibilities, the court feels that it is in the best interest that that respondent has legal representation.
And why is
so-
that such a significant increase? Is it-
That is a significant increase because they have widened the scope of who is eligible to be considered a respondent and who is eligible to receive counsel. And I think, again, they're doing that because we are working with individuals' actual rights and liberties. And as such, they want to make sure that their voice is heard and represented and that they're not placed under a guardianship or conservatorship that is not needed.
And has that been in effect of all 2021?
No.
When did it go into effect?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it did go into effect 2021. I don't feel that we have really taken advantage of it yet because I don't think as many people are filing because of COVID right now. But as people are filing, we will be applying the code, and if they are eligible for counsel and it meets the requirement, it is the judge's preference to assign counsel.
Well, you got 5,500 for half a year, which is 11,000 total.
Yeah, I estimated a little bit more, and I'll tell you why I'd like to do that. Anything that I do not use, is it possible to maybe transfer to a reserve account that I could then use?
That's nice in theory, but that's not the way we budget. Quite honestly, I mean, this raises the tax levy, and that's what we have to look at.
I was just looking down at the other reserve accounts and wondered if I could reserve costs and expenditures like that, if I could treat legal fees similar.
Well, I'm going to suggest, gentlemen, that we decrease that 13 to 12. It'll offset it'll make it a wash on the statute saving so that there is no difference. Legal fees is 12. And,
Well, statute, we didn't change, right?
no, but she changed it from 4,000 to 2,000. It decreased it. She's increased her legal fees by 3,000. I'm saying if we increase the legal fees to 2,000, those two lines will balance out each other.
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Mhm.
So we're going to change 13 to 12. Publications is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
That's the one that offsets on the revenue side.
Offsets.
Yeah, see my note there, CR 101. So she increased them both by $3,000.
Oh,
Increased what?
increase the revenues.
Publications is up $3,000.
Oh, I see.
And so are revenue, so it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what comes in and out of
And
that.
that's my goal.
Yeah, like her actuals, so go back to, you're lower than your actuals on the revenue side. If you look at your projected actual expenditures, they're higher. So again, it offsets.
John, anything else with regards to probates?
I have 256,178.
Okay. Looks like that's a wrap.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
gentlemen.
for coming down.
Have a great day.
Thanks for that. I don't see anybody on there. So did you understand my note with third party? Historically, that's kind of discussed at the end, but I kind of got them all in ahead of time this year, and I just wanted to make sure they were not invited to be here today. I had a couple inquire. I said, you can go on Zoom if you want, but I didn't send out a general notice to them to be here. I thought that could happen at the next meeting. Or if you look at it, and you want to specifically request anybody.
Where are you?
I'm sorry, Department 17, I jumped down there. Only because I didn't know if we had somebody on Zoom, and I don't see anybody. So I'll take your pleasure as to where you want to go, but.
That is an account that every municipality and every county.
It's fine.
uh,
Wait. Yay.
From. Oh, yeah, Renee, Renee. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm here for Downey's Restorative Justice as one of the third party.
Yeah. Um, Again, you can take advantage of the opportunity. Somebody might cry foul because not everybody was here, but if you just wanted an explanation on the increase, they are the largest increase.
Yeah,
Or I'll reach out to them. Renee, I'll reach out and let them know when the official.
yeah, why, I mean, you brought that up, and we have Renee here, why?
Sherry, you okay with that or the other two?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah. Well, I should, Renee, are you prepared to discuss that?
Sure. I mean, I guess if you're moving this agenda item to a different meeting, I'm happy to show up again. But yeah, I also can also give a little bit of an explanation about that.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the Reader's Digest version, that's all.
Yeah, I think the main point is that our work has expanded, and you know, I think in past meetings of these same explanations, we've talked about Downey's restorative justice work as kind of being a reactive service when harm is committed in the community. So our work has actually moved to balance some of that out to be proactive, and we're working a lot more with schools in the county to train around restorative practices. And yeah, you'll notice that in the application that there's a lot more schools that have asked for training. And yeah, I guess I'm wanting to be grateful for the funding that we've already received from the commissioners. But the main point is just that we've grown.
what is your total operating budget?
Our total operating budget is prospectively $43,155.
And where do you get the rest of your funding from?
We have money that comes from the Department of Corrections through a contract with Restorative Justice Project, our fiscal sponsor. We also receive other grants, so we're still working with funding from Maine Community Foundation. And we also receive a lot of in-kind support from people who are maybe being paid through other work, but are volunteering within the organization.
Is the DOC funding, is that something that you discuss annually as far as the amount, or how is that?
Those contracts are renewed each year, and it's on a usually it's on a county by county basis with Restorative Justice Project. So that group oversees several different counties, but the individual counties that work with Restorative Justice Project get funding in other ways too. It's kind of a piecemeal budget. So yeah, that is renewed annually though.
As you were talking about your next budget, your contract with them and whatnot, did you increase that by 50%?
That would be something that happens with Restorative Justice Project, but someone just piping in there. Yeah, so there will be an increase there as well, but I just want to make the point that Department of Corrections funding is more for restorative or community restorative conferences. So that again would be the more reactive approach to addressing harm and safety in our community. That would be like our referred cases through the district attorney's office. Whereas other increases in our work are more in this school training and school participation. And that really wouldn't be in the Department of Corrections purview.
So the question is, if those are in community, reassess communities through taxation. And why aren't the individual communities footing this, and why is the county?
Well, they have to get through the county tax. This
Yeah, yes.
raises the tax levy, which,
Yeah.
and whatnot, which is, comes to the town.
Yeah, there may be a case of both. Maybe they do partially.
Well, it can't be much if their total budget is, I guess that's a question. Are you receiving monies from individual communities?
No, mostly we're working, so, so for schools, we could receive funding like through the school that was asking for training. But in order to make it so that all of the communities have access, we would be giving a match to whatever that is. So, no, we don't receive funding from individual communities.
Or schools?
I didn't hear that response, Paul.
Or schools, or schools.
Or schools, yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you that this is new to the group, this Department 17 club, I call it. I mean, this is a select group. We've been supporting this for 3 years now. Yeah.
We're for, yeah.
This is year 4 that we're talking about coming out. And if you look at all the other entities in Department 17, all the third parties, we support a portion of those for the core operation. We just support, except down at the Firemen's Association, which I think is more of an agency, county agency than they are an outside entity. But anyways, this is the one that they're truly operating expenses. She talked about how the state pays for specific, truly operating, is heavily dependent upon the county. And this has gone up.
Yeah.
I mean, this has gone up. Did we have this in 19?
Started in 19 at 6,000.
So you can see we've gone from 19 to 22, we've gone from 6,000 to 22,600 and whatnot. And my problem is that do we want to be solely responsible for any agency out there that provides services?
Well, I would turn that to the agent. I mean, I think this is a huge risk for them. You know, if the political makeup of the board changes, they're at risk, huge. But conversely, this sounds, I'm new, so I don't fully understand everything that you do. I have some ideas, but this, I don't know, I see their risk a lot more than ICR's.
It's not, the risk for us is that the cost of being the sole provider for their core duties rests entirely upon us. And as this young lady can easily justify a cost increase, that has to be passed on to us because there's no other entities out there sharing that cost, like University of Maine or, some of these other agencies. And so, and this is a program like drug court, it's a program like others out there, whatnot, that it's difficult for us to evaluate the value of that program. Now, in theory, when you listen to what restorative justice does, it sounds like this might be the way to go, and we bought into that. But the bottom line is that we're the only ones making that evaluation because nobody else is out there, And I'm just, rather than cut them off, I'm just wondering if it is at some point we tell them that we're not going to be solely responsible for your core operation. You're going to have to get some other funding because the county is not going to see this up in the 50s and 60s and 80s over the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, that's important, but they're a fairly new agency, right?
They've been around 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, and
Well, compared to.
I don't know if I would say it's our sole operations. It is a big piece, though.
Well, it's over 50%.
Right, but I think your point is well taken, Chair, because we've had that discussion about other agencies that we kind of sent the same warning that you need to change. You know, we can't keep absorbing all of these increases, and so we need to find a game plan that eliminates that. But
Yeah, and that's also, I mean, that would be something to the Department of Education may also be thinking about too.
yeah, right.
Well, see, and that's the other thing is that the Department of Corrections thinks this program is magnificent. They really have high praises for this thing. But they don't show their appreciation in money. I mean, they don't give to the core. I mean,
You mean the State Department?
the State Department of Corrections, yeah. They really tout this as the way to go.
Well, that's because they're not paying.
Well, that's right. I mean,
For one reason.
but you know. So anyways,
I mean, it's a sad
quite honestly, I'm not in favor of a 50% increase in this in 1 year.
Well, again, we generally really hammer this one on like one of the last items.
Oh, yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Well, I think it's a good idea that if we let this young lady know today that our contribution to her level, her request is in jeopardy, she may want to come back
Yeah.
with
Especially for all three.
bring the big cannons, I guess, you know, because I have the same opinion about planning commission.
So what, my guess is this part of their services goes to the jail?
No, what it is it's an alternative program for, is it exclusively juveniles or mostly juveniles?
Mostly juveniles, yep. And it's, we work with the district attorney's office so that we may be how do I say? I don't know if it's an alternative, but we work with the court system to facilitate a conversation with the people who've been affected by some harm. So mostly it is juveniles, and we facilitate a conversation with everyone affected. We come up with a repair agreement, a plan for them to repair that harm so that they can take responsibility and directly respond to the person who was harmed's needs. And then they can go back to court for maybe a lesser sentence or and deferred disposition and informal adjustment.
Simplify it. A juvenile does a bunch of damage to your car. This group steps in or is called upon to help mitigate that and provide an alternate. So that's what you're doing.
To the DA.
You would have an option to say, you messed up my car, this is what I need from you. And the person would, and everyone affected, the people who did it and their family, and you would hear the whole story, why it happened, what people were thinking and feeling at the time, and then come up with a plan to say, like, this is what I need because my car was messed up. And there's just that amount of time, and then we
And
come
the
back.
reason I'm asking that question, I'm trying to figure out who the ultimate beneficiary is.
The whole community.
She says it's not quite an alternative, it's a big alternative,
Yeah.
the DA's office, because every case they can resolve through
Right.
this is a case that the DA's office doesn't have to handle, or it's easily handled by a simple change in charging document. So in other words, if they end up reducing the charges, or then that's an easy one, just a different complaint, so on. So, you know, and the key here is that you set down the victim and the perpetrator together in one room, and they have to face each other, and there's a value in that. So,
Well, there's a value to the county for that. And that's why I'm not questioning it, I'm just trying to get a better picture.
We don't-
Sounds like the Department of Justice does need this,
well, there's
because that's where DA gets some funding, right?
We work with the juvenile community corrections officers. We work very closely with them. Oftentimes the JCCOs are in the conferences, so they too are, but that's Department of Corrections.
So, I guess the word is that there is some consideration today for not approving a full 50% increase in your budget. And so at some point later,
Do you want to task them with coming back with a different number?
well, I thought you was gonna have an
I will, but they should, maybe they might want to be prepared and come in with
No,
something.
I'll tell you right
No?
now, it's gonna be a 25% increase.
Okay,
That's what I'm suggesting.
Well,
but yes, there'll be another day when everybody,
I see the value in this. One of the things that I think, Chair, and I share this opinion, is that we're seeing this growth faster on this side than elsewhere. And that just is cause for concern.
Sure.
I shouldn't have said, those are my words.
I think they're fair. I think they're fair and accurate.
Hi, this is Brad Shielphon. I'm apologize for being a little bit late. I'm also on the board of directors of Down East Restorative Justice. And I also am not totally familiar with how this process works. But I think it will definitely have an impact on our programs if we don't get the full increase. And it would take me a minute to kind of look through that. If we could table it for, I was under the impression that there would be another committee that would also look at this after this meeting potentially.
Yes, so once we get done with our reviewing the initial submissions for budget requests, we send this along, we finalize it and send it along to the Budget Advisory Committee. That's a complete separate committee who reviews all of the budget again. So you would have, if we don't give you another chance before us, you'll still have an opportunity to discuss your proposed budget with the BAC. And then they make recommendations and send it back to us for final approval. So.
Because their
Excellent.
whole operating budget is 43,155, right?
Where'd you find that?
On page 3 of their application of their.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Back at it.
So you're funding right around 50% mark.
Yeah. So my guess is that their budget, that in past years, their budget wasn't half of that, right? Couldn't have been.
Well, we started out in 19 with 6,500. It was steadily increased to the point of when now they want 44 and
Oh, the point I'm trying to make is the county share has been growing faster than their budget. It's got to be the case, because I can't imagine that they were operating at half of that.
I mean, I can remember, originally when it come aboard, it was kind of, well, I don't want to use the term thrown together, but, again, it was a much smaller budget. And then there were conversations about office rent and, utility expense, things like that. So I'm assuming they must have a place now and are inheriting those expenses, last year or moving forward, so.
Oh, and they didn't have those expenses prior. Is that fair? Is that fair?
I would say that our budget has grown significantly, and so has our request for funding. But we started out with a very small budget when we were operating under a very tiny budget when the commissioners had contributed the 6,000.
Well, like last year, your budget is 15,000, okay?
Yep.
What was your total operating last year?
I will need to look.
I have a copy of Shan.
I mean, it wasn't half of the 43, right? Couldn't have been.
It could have been.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, because we have really, this is the point I was trying to make at the very beginning, like we've really taken on this whole separate work by adding this like proactive community building, restorative practices, training into schools. We're not just working reactively by facilitating cases when someone commits harm. Instead, we're trying to kind of build community and ways of having conversations in school ahead of time before this harm happens.
That's the key. You just hit it right on this.
Expansion of services.
It's an expansion of services, which makes sense. The question is, does it make sense for the county
To be,
to be shouldering that? That's the question.
it's a proportion that they present.
And I think that's putting my comment 30 minutes earlier in perspective.
Exactly.
I'm concerned that this is going to be $100,000 operating expense in a couple of years, and we're going to be burdened with 75% of it.
And they're gonna be at risk because of it.
Well, whether they're at risk or not is their issue. Our issue is how much, to what extent do we want to fund their operation? And I'm saying that I don't want to be the sole provider. They do get money from the state for specific work and volunteers, that'll come and go, but we're being expected and whatnot to pick up the difference between state volunteers and what's left over is coming to us. And I'm saying that it's, I just personally, I don't think that the county should be in the business of supporting any entity to that extent.
That perception's been said. I can't disagree with that. Although I agree with the mission. That's the point.
Yeah, and I guess I also want to just point out that our expansion has happened based on the need. Like, it's more that schools are saying, like, this has been really helpful to us and we want more of it. So it's not like we're just saying like, oh, we're going to do these services now. It's like people are asking for this. And so maybe there is a community benefit here.
Without a question. I totally agree with you. But the question for us should be, is it the county's responsibility to shoulder those expenses for the services that other entities are requesting? Like schools. To me, this is a school item. Legitimately, this is a school item, not county fund.
Could I ask, is there something that moving forward in this coming year and future years that you gentlemen would want to see in terms of data or evidence for what the value to Hancock County is? Maybe there's a way we can draw clearer, direct lines in terms of the value of the work that we provide for you.
Well, for me personally, that's not the issue. In other words, next step could probably come in here and say, we have a significant increase in the services we provide, and we want the county to provide exclusively the cost of those increases. We wouldn't do that. You're going to have to go back and spread that out over the multiple funding levels that you have. So my problem is that I don't want to be the sole funding agency for your organization for years to come. And if we don't nip this in the bud at some point here, we're going to end up becoming that to the point of where it would be catastrophic for us to simply pull our funding from you people. You're better off, if this is the sentiment of the full board, you're better off knowing that today that you can't depend upon us for this level of funding to the exclusion of everybody else out there, including VOC, who are already paying a ton more. So
I don't think what we're talking about shouldn't be a big surprise, because it's gotten brought up the last 2 years. I remember the very first one I was in, we were talking about how the funding needs to get diversified. And when I've had talks with Leslie and Ms. Lalonde about it, that there's, we need to start seeing some other people throwing in some money on it, because there's not going to be enough support to see diversification, how you get your funding. Sure, the county's, we have responsibility in the whole county, and when you look at the towns, I think you're doing a good job. I can see, I like the fact that you're trying to And I'll be honest, I didn't know we were gonna talk about it today, so I haven't even looked through the information yet. That's why I don't really want to make any particular statement on it that much, but you need to justify yourselves, right? And I think from what I can read there, from looking at it, and I think you're doing a good job. I can see the progress in how you're presenting your requests. They've really improved over the last 3 years, a lot more professional, a lot more, I can see the growth. So, I'm not wildly of a different opinion that we need to get more people to chip in because it's a valuable program, and I have no intention of seeing it go away or to reduce it or anything like that. The amount of increase might not be what you're hoping for.
Well, I'd like to have the board to consider reducing their want to 18,000 even.
So that would be
20% increase, 3,000.
yeah.
Are you wanting us to rewrite a proposal? Is that what you're asking?
No, you still have the ability to go to the board, to the Budget Advisory Committee and ask for your full amount. And if you can convince them, that would be the recommendation back to us. And then we would have to look at that again when we finalize the budget in December. So, no, you're.
Okay.
For the purposes of budgeting and whatnot, you have submitted your request. We're acting on your request. It's up to you to decide how to proceed once you understand the system. And that system really should be going to BAC and basically making your case to them as to why this should be the full amount of funding you asked for. But as Commissioner Wambacher said, the bottom line is really though, is that you need to get out there, you need to find somebody else or some other entities to share the funding and stop relying upon the county, because one of these years, this discussion we've been having now 3 years in a row is going to result in significant cutbacks that you can't afford. So that would be my advice to you. Gentlemen, do you agree on 18,000?
I had a motion, I didn't hear a second, but.
Well, do we make motions on these or is it by general consensus?
I
I think it's general consensus.
General consensus.
General
Yeah, right, 'cause
consensus.
We've been waiting for votes till the end.
Yeah, we don't make
my bad.
those.
Yeah.
So by general consensus, can we agree at 18,000?
Well, I have the same concern. I also have the concerns, because this has been going up to this magnitude. So next year, does it become 30,000? But
Oh, well, you send in the warning now that it
yeah,
shouldn't or better not, or however you wanna, yeah.
I think we're understanding that loud and clear now. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I would say that I'm a bigger advocate, I think, even than you gentlemen, that we need to diversify. I just joined the board in the past year in the middle of the pandemic. And so I think we're working on some things, and I'm really excited about the direction that Down East Restorative Justice is going in. And I 100% hear your concerns about diversification. But at the same time, I still want to ask you for the full amount because I know of all of the programs that we can use that money to fund. So I get both sides of it 100%.
I guess, Bill, I agree with you. I think this is very on in the budget process, and we'll see what happens from here. But at this point, I guess I agree.
I'm personally more comfortable with 20,000, but like you said, it's consensus.
20 instead of 18? So Paul, let's give John some consideration and we'll change this to 19,000, okay? Let's split the difference between our 18 and his 20. You okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's the same.
We're gonna give you another grand, John, so we'll make this 19,000. Folks, thank you very much for your time. And again, you're going to want to come back and talk to the BAC. And I can tell you that they're very sympathetic and we certainly hold no heavy weight with them. So you're going to you're going to be well heard and good luck to you, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to go right down to the planning commission and they've asked for a 32% increase. And
Wow.
quite honestly, I'm not sure, since their this worse of a climate, but catastrophe there with the finances, I'm not quite sure what they're doing anymore. Do you? I mean,
I haven't heard much, which has been good, because prior it wasn't good, but.
are they providing services? Do they have staff up there? And
They have the new director.
they have a director, but are they doing anything? Are they providing services?
And so it might be a good idea to wait until they're here to answer those questions.
When would they be here?
The next meeting, and that's what you want to, that was my plan. I didn't want to wait till the 28th.
Well, it would be unfair to adjust their ask right now without anybody being able to answer those questions, but Scott, you might tell them that we're concerned about this substantial increase, so. Gentlemen, I guess there's not much more we can do with Department 17 today.
Well, what do they, in a nutshell, what are they doing?
We don't know what they're doing now. They were very, very valuable years gone by. I mean, planning and, I mean, they, for example, they had a, what was it, Rebecca, that group, sand and salt purchasing?
Yeah, they benefit, or they did benefit smaller towns who, they would group together to get a better deal on a sand and salt bid, so all the towns would benefit from that rather than, 15 different bids, things like that.
Yeah, and they do planning for you, like
Mhm.
sequence.
Yeah, like comprehensive plans.
Comprehensive planning, right?
Mhm.
But since they went belly up there with the finances and they're trying to establish themselves, I don't know what they're doing anymore.
Oh, they also do the hazardous waste collection.
Are they still doing that?
Well, they, according to their website, they had it on August 28th
Is that
of this year,
They had
2021.
it in Ellsworth here? There was a-
Ellsworth High School.
Yeah, that was put together by them.
I think they're more active than you realize.
Is that
I
right?
think we-
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to wait to hear from them. So there's not much we can do with that, Paul, until we,
Yeah, it just wasn't.
I mean, it'd be irresponsible for us to just approve it based upon their ask, but it'd be unfair for us to just cut it without them being able to. So let's go, why did we jump to 17, Scott?
Oh, because I jumped in there and said, just because I thought there might be somebody on the screen, and there was. But
Okay, do you recognize anybody else that might want to be heard on?
Nope.
Okay, let's come back then to, is commissioners the next one, Scott?
Yep. And really, there's nothing in transfers under commissioners today. So we can go right to the expenses. And one of the items that I'd like to see, cleared up, determined today is the salary for Rebecca. The reason I'm bringing that up is that right along, she's been doing some, the commissioners were gracious enough to allow the opportunity for the continuing education, and that's ending this year, right, Rebecca?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, you got anything you want to add in there?
So the 66, excuse me, I just need to understand, is more than the 5% increase
No.
and the 4% COLA?
No.
Why is it even an issue?
I mean, why is it even an issue?
I mean, that's.
No, I haven't put anything in there yet. That's the number at the 5% increase.
Oh, I see, that's not the ask.
That's not the ask. No,
Okay.
no, we talked about it and had varying strategies, and honestly, with, scientists said, let's just.
Do you have a number? This is unfair, but do you have a number, Rebecca?
Well, we didn't settle on a number, no.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, first and foremost, and I keep saying this, not, maybe you're tired of hearing it, but we have the best HR department this county has ever had. I mean, it was tragic, some of the disquality that we had in that department. And Rebecca has brought a level of HR awareness, expertise that I've never seen before in Hancock County. She's a wonderful person to deal with. And when I see that our RCC director is going to make $70,000 next year, and we know we have a good RCC director, but I say to myself, Bob, you're a hell of a nice guy, and I like you. You do a good job. And when I look at your quality of your job, and I look at the quality of Rebecca's, I say, I don't see that she's any less. So
Yeah, but it's tough to compare.
I know, but
Yeah, so I'm gonna divulge, because you're heading kind of where I was hoping you were heading. I think it should be 75 minimum. I think upper 70s I think it should be, I really feel it should be a $10,000 increase.
So it's, right now, it's what, 55?
66,193.
No.
it would be this year, 66.
Yeah, it would be this.
Oh, right now?
So we,
61616.
Right. I guess my,
6616.
my comment is 10 in addition to what's on there, but
we see 66,193 is what I have.
yeah, it's a 2021 number.
Oh, I see, over that, I see. Yeah.
So 10% over that is 72.8.
10% over what?
He was saying 10%, I'm saying 10,000.
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying 66,
Plus 10.
66,193 times
Yeah.
1.1
Yeah, should be what, 72?
is 72.8.
72.8.
Scott.
No, I said 10 grand.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure.
Oh, I thought
We're all
you
on the
said
same
10.
page. Okay.
Okay,
And I would support 72. That's a 10% increase over what she would have gotten this year, so I would support 72 for that. Gentlemen, what do you want to do?
well,
And this is tough with Rebecca sitting here, but we have to do the same thing. If Andy's saying, he was standing right there asking for 10%, so we might as well.
Well, the difference here though is that, and she's benefited from the investment, but so have we, and you shall in the future. And that's been a pretty substantial, so I won't say she wasn't underpaid, but I do want to make sure that at least I give a good effort based off of my own personal beliefs that's why I went with that number.
so before there were, at that again, I'm very green. So at that 6616, there was some continuing education stuff that was outside of that?
Yeah, so can I jump in?
Please.
Yeah, yes, so three things that, you maybe you may want to consider in this discussion. So in the last couple of years, it hasn't really been part of my compensation package, but it has been. You've paid for my continuing education, which is a master's degree in labor and employment law. So I guess that's point one, that has been part of my package. That's going away this year.
And that's an amount. What's that amount?
So over the 2 years, it's about $35,000.
Okay, so half of that.
Yeah.
Per year. So it's $15,000. I mean, I'm doing backing of the napkin stuff here. So that justifies that proves that 10%.
Sure.
Is the only point I'm trying to make.
If we don't have to pay for continuing education and give her a 10% raise, we still save money.
Yeah, and we've got the benefit of Yeah, so
Well, so the other two, I just want to throw these two out, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt, but, so there's that. The other thing is that you will have an employee, who has a law degree, a master's degree in labor and employment law. It is a law degree from Tulane Law School. So that's.
there's two sides to that, though. Just kidding.
And the third piece that I want to bring up is that, I am your number two in the county. When Scott's not here, you look to me to make, recommendations or, take actions that you would direct to him. So I just want to throw those out to you for
No, you
consideration.
justify it.
I think back to when Michelle Beal was the city manager. And a law firm came in and said, we'll double your salary if you'll go to work for us. I think with,
Don't give her any ideas.
well, it just worries me that with her qualifications, her background, her education and whatnot, that some law firm's gonna walk in and say, we need a good HR person like you. And so I think if we can keep her compensated to the level that we can honestly compete, it's in our best interest.
So I agree. So what's the number?
72 even, just 72.
Well, it works out 72.8.
75? Well,
I'm just following up on your comments.
well, what did you say?
75 is about a little, it's around 24%, I think.
Over this year? Over this year?
Yeah, over this year.
Yeah, and, you can't look at that, that's a huge number, you can't look at that, but this is an odd year with what we've done, and.
Yeah.
You could also say, if you're gonna, the way the budget's looking, if you're gonna do it, now's the time to do it, but.
Well, I'd just like to be able to prove a number instead of having it arbitrary.
Sure.
We proved 72.8.
Remember, the one thing we're subject to here is that these two people work for us. And we're subject to, what, you gave Rebecca a 5% raise over and above her 5% raise in 21. You gave her another 20% in 22. You know what I'm saying? You're taking good care of your people. And anyways, and I'm not saying that's justification. I'm just saying we are susceptible to that problem. So.
Sorry, Paul, what was your number again?
72.8.
Oh, okay, I only had 72, yeah.
Well, I didn't realize it was that high. I was just going around numbers.
Oh, so which one do you want?
I want to go 73.
73? Yeah.
Okay, all I did was punch it in the calculator. That's the number that came.
In round figures, she got a 10% raise over what she would have gotten this year to 73,000, which is. It's a $13,000 raise over the 21, so.
We're splitting hairs, but yeah, I agree.
John?
I think that also, as she pointed out, and I would agree that places are in a good ratio between the two of us, an appropriate ratio.
And
We're gonna take her raise out of yours, so.
That's fine.
I'm still waiting for John's response.
Hank's increase.
73?
yeah,
Oh, I thought it was settled, I already put it in there, we can't change it.
okay, so
Yeah, it's one of those that I sells that I lock down, you can't.
Would you lock it in?
So
73?
70.
so that we're not feeling that full increase because it was elsewhere before.
Right, in fact, it's a decrease over the cost, over her actual cost of having her employed because we're not paying for education. Right.
Oh, well, yeah, so that came out of the G account, so it would, yeah,
I'm talking about in ag.
and everything, yeah. Yeah, it's still, yeah, that's a good deal.
Okay, Scott, what else?
Okay,
Snuck in
I
this.
don't see anything else down through there, of course. That is gonna change, I gotta go in and change that's gonna have an effect on FICA, retirement, workers' comp, but I might be able to, again, FICA and retirement, I might be able to shave over on the budget a little bit. Workers' comp, I'm hesitant to because, we just got notified that, we've got a good year going off and a really bad year coming on. And we'll also want to keep that in mind when we talk about the employee issue that we were talking about earlier. $500 increase in training and registration. To be honest, I'm not, that might even be a typo. Because it was 1,000 and that's what, I think I just had fat fingers, so I would say that would be
You know,
1,000.
you got $500 increase.
Yeah, I don't know why that's there.
I just got lost. Where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm scooting down through, starting with 07100 travel and mileage. Basically, I flatlined everything except,
Training registrations up.
Yeah.
It's going up.
Yep.
Down to 1,500.
Training registration, it's 1,000, okay?
Training registration,
Yeah, I don't know why 1,500's in there, to be honest with you.
Well, your 5-year average is 1,400.
That's the budget. The 5-year use is only $700.
Yeah.
That's why I said I'm not sure. I thought I flat funded everything here.
so your registrations haven't gone up then?
No,
Well, let's keep that 1,000 then, gentlemen, and he can.
and the same thing on equipment. I'm not sure.
Well, you know, it used to be 750, went to 500, now you got it back up to 750.
Yeah, I dropped it to 5.
So we're gonna go to 500 on equipment.
Yeah, and the only other question down at the bottom was ortho imagery.
Well, there's no question, because we knew that we wanted to fund 1/5 of that, because every 5 years we have to,
You did, and last year you chose to take it out of community benefits.
oh, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that. I mean,
Where are you?
At the very bottom, 07205 for $6,500.
Yeah, okay.
well, did we fund that 1 year for some reason?
Okay, wait a minute, I'm sorry. So in 2021, okay, well, that's this year. I'm sorry, no, the first year you did budget, CC decided budget expense rather than use the CB, okay. This year,
Is the
we
second,
were gonna use it if we have a surplus. We took it out of the budget, but if there's surplus monies, you're gonna transfer it over.
but we should be taking that out of the budget, not CBA.
That was the goal.
Yeah, I mean, this, for all intents and purposes, this could go on forever, 500 a year. That's that
Right.
ortho imagery, you know what that is? Yeah.
So do we share, like Howard does that, Ellsworth does, do we?
They're allowed
It's
to
equitable.
upgrade it.
It's equitable, something said.
It's not, there's no inequity.
So,
Everybody has access.
But so, do we share all this information so we're not duplicating?
yes, they can upgrade. We buy it at
A certain
medium sort of resolution. And the UT does it as well. The UT pays for theirs, and then towns can upgrade to a higher resolution. So you get down closer. So they can do their tax maps and I guess even like code enforcement, things like that. Yep.
Yeah, so we're not paying for stuff that they're
No,
paying for.
No, this allows them, I think is one of the big reasons why we do it. This allows them to piggyback on and they send us, I can look up the spreadsheet if you want to see the proposal, but. So in 2021, which is this year's budget, we're hoping that we would have a surplus. And I can tell you it's looking pretty darn good right now. And if there wasn't, the backup plan was we would take it from another designated fund account.
Why did we pick this one item for that? Any idea?
But I think you're trying to get the budget down.
Okay,
And honestly, you may consider it again, but
so we're gonna leave it in there for the time being, see what happens. Okay.
Yep.
All right, then, let's go to health insurance, Department 20.
so I had the treasurer's budget listed on there.
If I skip that? Oh, treasurer's budget.
Are you fine with doing that? Do you want me to reach out and try to get contact again?
Who you getting the PILT money from?
No, Acadia,
Acadia,
National Park.
National Park?
Yeah.
We don't have anything that we can get PILT money from.
That should be right around the 30,000 mark, but. UT is the UT admin fee, interest income. I'm really hoping to get a bank RFP out by the end of the year, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's gonna happen. But if we could do something maybe by June of next year, and the possibility of new banking and eager with the cash that we have on hand might offer better interest rate that might help with the interest income, but
Well, our ARP money, we can keep that, put in the budget. right?
yes, right, but we're not very much.
We're not earning enough to make.
No, it's dropped drastically.
So are we, when was the last time we did a banking RFP?
I haven't done one since I've been here that I'm aware of. No, we did the audit RFP.
Geez, I thought we did something and we kept the charges.
So we ought to,
They came to us, we had an offer as it was closing out, and our current bank came to us and said, well, if you hang on with me for another year or two, then we'll do this.
We would have gone out that way if they hadn't done that, though, right?
why not? It's, you said it's a big complicated process.
Really the biggest conflict is finding time to do it. It's a little bit of work to put one together.
I was kind of hoping that there was.
The process is really, the changeover is really the
Yeah,
biggest issue. I mean, if you do change.
I was just hoping there was a template out there so we could go fishing.
Yeah, there's a couple. Again, this is one of those things I inherited, when the ball was dropped, so, hoping to get to it.
Well, that's not something that Monica can do for you?
I don't know. You have experience in that, Monica?
I might be able to.
Might be able to throw the template at her.
Well, that's up to,
Between
I mean,
between the two, you.
yeah,
There's a lot going on,
Yeah.
so I mean.
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
we don't need to get in the middle of that, but that, to me, that's, should be doing that every, I don't know, 5 years or so.
yes, that's my general, like to, yeah.
So we go to expenditures.
Yep. And,
We threw out just enough money to get Monica to come to work.
yep,
But what's it gonna cost us to keep her?
that first one is not correct, should be just the 4% COLA, I believe. Oops. Yeah,
Are you sure?
I'd have to go back and level, yeah. What's 55 times 1.04? Yeah,
That's only 4%?
Yeah.
Should there have been a 5% increase?
in the September,
Yeah.
nope, we had talked about it, and
Yeah, we had that.
that was something that, that's why actually, to be honest, that's why we upped the offer,
Yeah, we had that
to
discussion.
avoid,
Yeah,
so, that was just my bad, putting that in there.
So is there a recommendation or is this the recommendation? 57.2 for,
That's the recommendation with the co-logs or solar stays at 4. Yeah, if that moves, then. Then you have the Pam's number down below and the treasurer's stipend.
So,
See how I quickly kind of.
yeah, I saw, so, I talked a little bit with Scott a little bit.
Oh, election
The
sequence.
next, maybe not this year budget, but I definitely think the next budget, which also lines up with elections, this needs to get adjusted. Because if we've got a new person doing the finance director, I don't really feel like the treasure line should be the same amount.
I don't think an individual who didn't come to work in 2021 should get anything for 2022. So, you know what I mean? You're giving them health insurance. $200 a week.
So what,
We haven't seen him for months. And now he knows he doesn't have a desk in the office. He broke right with him.
so what,
He probably moved to a different county.
what's that amount? 11,357.
$200 a week.
Yeah, it's our pay, so just so you know. Same, yes.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I'm not trying, but two.
No, well,
But,
Well, I guess
That's a
it's
little
gotta
bit
be,
like-
because 200 a week is 10 too. So what's this 11?
well, that's with the, that's gonna be the new amount.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's all based off of what same pays as we have. As commissioners.
So
218.
I need to be schooled. We're obligated to have a treasurer because of state law. He's elected because we have no charter in the state law. But we have the sole discretion to pay, to decide the amount. That's true.
Mhm.
So.
Exclusive.
So on Bill's point, or the chair's point, we're not getting anything. Why are we paying this? He does have certain legal obligations, right? He comes and signs checks and
Well, he
He
has
doesn't
the
even do that.
obligations, he does
He doesn't
not
even fulfill them.
necessarily.
Yeah, the last,
He doesn't even fulfill his obligation.
yeah, probably last month or two.
Mhm. I sign them.
Yep. Yeah.
so I'm not reading the room very well, but
You're right. John, politically, John says we've cut him to the best we can. I mean, just by winning the election, he deserves core amount. That's John's argument. And
this John's
this
argument,
John, this is John's argument.
well, he doesn't mean,
It's not a big argument.
I know it
It's to me, it's a practical solution to, I think there's concerns over what'll happen if,
Try to get it.
if you.
yeah, but
if you do a
medical,
drastic cut.
But not even showing up. I mean, you know, I'll be kind of,
I think we could have got blasted if we had done this a year ago.
yes,
But
Yeah.
now that he hasn't shown up
Yes.
for a year, I mean, there is justification.
I get this comment weekly at least.
Oh my God, people tell me, haven't you got any more of those jobs? I can get $200 for you. I don't have to.
so why don't we leave it in the budget and address it this way? Let's see how things go through the end of the year, and you may, what you budget, what is actually, although it's an elected position, that might, well, the sheriff is the only one that,
Why not take it out of there and let it go through the BAC like that?
what, well, you could, yeah.
I mean.
You say, what if all of a sudden,
I'll show up every day.
there's a return.
Do what?
What if all of a sudden there's a return?
Well, then we need to
And
address
it's
it.
not in there.
We'll
Then it's
find the
not-
money.
and it's not in
We'll find the money. The likelihood of him coming back is so remote.
I,
I don't even think that's even a consideration, but you know as well as I do. If he showed up tomorrow and said, I'd like to have my $19 an hour back, or whatever he was getting. Well, what are you gonna do for work? And he said, I'll do this.
no, you have, the commissioners have. That was one of the advantages or one of the positive things of having all that discussion with legal. Yeah. No, he has a certain, and as long as, I mean, if you request him to do extra work, the treasurer do extra work, then you have to pay. But if you don't request it, no.
I think it's a responsible thing to do.
Well, I'd like to cut that to $2,600 a year. It's $50 a week.
Well,
That's $49.99 more than he's worth, but nonetheless, he
he's
might.
getting that, okay, he's getting met.
Good. I think the public is saying the same thing.
They are,
You know what I mean?
they are.
I hear this.
I
It happens in my
do.
house.
I do. I think even,
It happens in my house.
Is your house?
Yeah,
I think even, some of the articles that are written are indicating,
And so I'm saying that
yeah.
you might get criticized by somebody for doing this, but the overall,
I don't see how I can get criticized. We have a fiduciary responsibility
well, there is,
to the county.
because there is this political thought that simply by winning the election, you deserve something, just to be the successful.
I have not heard that political thought.
Yeah.
I really haven't. Nobody's expressed to me that point of view.
So
I'm not sure that that's beyond this rule.
Yeah.
I say you just need to determine an amount then.
I'm determining an amount of $50, that's $2,600 a year. That's what I'd like to see. And,
This is health insurance.
yes,
Because we don't have discretion over that.
well, we don't have to give you anything. I mean, we're not forced by statute to pay him anything, but no, he does not have, but
No, but well, just think that he's elected. Therefore, he's an employee. And we have to treat him like we do other employees.
I think we treat him just like we do an employee that's on workers' comp. Somebody else is gonna have to compensate that.
Okay, so I'm thinking rather than really elongate this discussion and open up any other can of worms, that can we come to an amount?
I'm suggesting, and I'm.
I heard that one.
waiting-
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a response.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it should be zero.
Ouch.
You know,
I hear you, but.
Yeah.
Rebecca is the HR person. I just want a little bit of a weigh in on there might be some risks to what happens. That's the only thing I'm a little worried about, if there are.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a couple differences between when you were talking about this last year and now that you're talking about it this year. Last year, we sort of treated him as a hybrid employee. He was elected, and then we had this expectation and this arrangement that was mutually agreed upon that he would come in and work on an hourly basis on certain projects. That fell through, but
it fell through.
yeah, so I mean, and this year, so we don't have that anymore. I mean, you were sort of respecting that last year when you were discussing it. This year, that piece isn't an issue. I really don't see, the only HR issue I see would be taking out his health insurance. And that's simply because the health insurance policy that we have right now,
Right.
his position falls under that
Yeah, I don't think
category
we
where he
should.
would be,
No.
yeah.
No.
But he, other than that, I really don't see much. I just do want to point out that he essentially removed himself from all of this by not communicating at all. I mean, not even just not showing up, just not even communicating. As far as I know, any correspondence that has been sent to him has not been, no, it hasn't been acknowledged. I don't know when the last time it was acknowledged.
So despite the fact that the mean side of me says give him zero, I still think $50 a week. And his health insurance.
I'll agree to $50 a week.
Yeah.
I think it should be, and maybe we should leave it at that, but I take what I hear, again, very seriously. We have a fiduciary responsibility in this county. If we have an employee who's not working and we should not be paying. I mean,
I think no matter what you put in the budget, that could be a consideration at the first of the year, and you may want to notify, if that's what you choose, is to notify and say, this is what, and the health insurance that's your compensation. I mean.
Rebecca?
Well, I just, part of this discussion that's come up in the past, part of what's driven this decision-making has been the history between that position and actions or the history of that position and its relationship to the commission. That's ancient history now, but that has been, that I think that when decisions have been made previous to this, that was part of the consideration.
Well, it certainly isn't for me because I don't know any better. You know, I don't have any of that history.
Yeah.
John, you've been here.
Yeah.
This is your second term? Third year, so you don't. I look at this, nothing personal, it's, if, as a business owner, if I had an employee that wasn't working, I wouldn't pay for him. I wouldn't pay him.
So we're going to do better, $50 more a week better. We're going to give the guy $50 a week.
$50 a month.
Which is a 75% reduction of what he was getting and 80% reduction of what he could have got.
John, you like the 50?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to change that to $2,600, right?
Yep.
I also just wanted to make one more point. He still gets copied on all of the minutes and agendas. And part of the responsibility of the treasurer in the past has been to take part in developing the treasurer budget, which includes his salary. So he has had the opportunity to, he knows this discussion was going to take place, or at least he should have known. He could have taken the opportunity to be here, and he still, can before it's a done deal.
That would be entertaining discussion if he came before the BOC for significant increase in pay.
I don't want to get personal because I don't know I don't even know. So, I can't speak to that. I see it very simply being fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility. I've said that 100 times.
The same, when it comes to next year, we look at what that's gonna be. Just because I think if we're reducing the response, some of the, if we have a finance person in place now, then even with whoever runs and wins, it's gonna be less responsibility. And to me, that's one of the responsible ways to help cover the costs of finance director. So,
well,
and next step is a charter.
Yeah.
I still gotta believe though, if it was zero health insurance, zero salary, you wouldn't have anybody with it.
Yeah.
And nothing says,
I'm not saying.
nothing says you have to have a treasurer. So.
You have to.
You have to have a position for statute.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to have one. You can't force people to run. But you have to have the position, right?
Well, yeah, but you don't have to fill a position.
No, but we don't fill a position. The voters would fill a position.
Well, no, if nobody ran, it's not like we would have to nominate somebody for the position. Can you just leave it vacant?
Well, I think there's a process with the parties
Goes to
and
the
the governor.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what it
Well,
is.
again, that's another discussion for a year from now, but, let's move along, gentlemen. The biggest thing I see looking down through here after we get out of salaries, whatnot, is you're not gonna put anything in for TAN. You don't.
No, I don't see any, not in the cash that we have.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay. Wow, that's it, right? Okay, gentlemen, you okay with this, with treasury budget?
So, and we will have, that won't change for next year because that's when the next installment comes.
Yep.
Yeah, we should be okay for next year and then probably the year after.
What's the bottom number now, Scott?
For treasurer,
Yes.
108,472.
Okay, so let's move now to
What's that one?
When's the next election?
Department 20 health insurance.
The election of the 20.
Start next.
Monica's gonna.
I think it starts with 23.
Health insurance, and these numbers are what they are, right, Scott?
Yep.
I mean, there's nothing really gonna do.
Yep.
Well, the only thing you can do is change the plan.
Yeah,
And
we were so,
we have contractual obligations around that.
Right, and yeah,
I don't know what you changed to, because we were self-insured for
Yeah.
years.
yeah.
Well, there's different plans.
Yeah.
This is a pretty darn good plan.
Yep. So that's not gonna happen. So our revenues and expenditures are what they are, right?
Yep.
Is this going to be the third year that we've been on this plan, Scott?
That would be 22, would be right?
Yeah, I think we started in July of 19.
July
Yeah,
19.
we just, July 19,
So
yeah.
I was just gonna tell Paul, I think that number would have been closer to 2 mil if we had,
Oh, yeah,
if we hadn't moved to this plan, that number right there would have been $2 million. So we were much better off. So let's move to reserves, gentlemen.
and there I've got the 35,000 for that group benefit, which coming up, the corrections off, have talked about getting rid of theirs, but that's where at the end of the year, if you have, on the union side, they have a certain amount of accrued benefit time that they basically, the county pays for that to go into a health savings account.
And that's actual expense, right?
Right,
That's not
Yeah,
like a reserve.
yeah.
That's we actually spend, it, right?
yes.
Gentlemen, building.
I didn't put anything there. If you
So I
saw-
just want
Yeah.
to tell Paul that several years ago, whatnot, the commissioner started this whole notion that we we're gonna have to have a, $10 million roof put on this building.
Yeah, 6, yeah, but close.
And some, 6 million, I guess, 6 million.
610.
Yeah, million here, million there. Well, at some point, cooler heads prevailed and they realized they didn't need that, but they had saved almost $3 million, had they, Scott? They had already put in that reserve account,
It was close to 3, I believe, yeah. Yeah, it was high 2s, yeah.
which, when they decided they didn't need the $6 million roof, that money became available for capital projects for maintenance department. And they,
So you've been whittling that down
Yeah.
for,
now the good news is that's still healthy. It's over a mil, is it over a mil,
No,
less than a mil?
it's less than a million, I want to say like, it's less than 700,000.
But if you looked at the capital plan that Dennis proposed this morning and whatnot, all that capital plan is still funded within that reserve account. My point being is that we have been dwindling that down, but we haven't been putting anything back into it.
so eventually we're gonna have to face the music there.
Well, eventually, we really need to keep that healthy so that we have that money, for whatever, but I'm not sure if this is the year to do it, but.
And the part of the problem is, we've said that for the last couple, then something else comes up, but I think we're
what?
I think we're over that, so that we can next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So this, in another year, we'll have this discussion again, but at some point, we're gonna have to start dumping some money back into that account and keeping that healthy, so.
and there's nothing to say that, as commissioners, you couldn't move money such as, 50,000 CB to tuck in there,
Mhm.
if that's what you chose to do. I mean, I know
Well, that can be done at any time.
exactly,
Right.
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 But to at least designate it rather than when it sits even.
This isn't panic talking, this is caution over the years to come. So are you all, gentlemen, okay with reserve accounts? So is that it, Scott?
So,
Now,
So what do we got left to,
well, one thing on setting a date, this next date,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
date it's gonna be, but Andy Sankey wants to come back and talk about his budget again, so whatever that is, be prepared for another discussion with EMA and budget. He and Scott, disagreed on what it should be. He wants to bring his case directly back to us, so that's gonna have to
is
happen.
it
at the next-
material?
no, yeah. I think it would be beneficial in many ways for EMA to come up and talk about their budget, maybe a couple of things.
Well, regardless of the position he's taking on his budget and whatnot, I still think it's healthy when you have a department head who's that adamant about in disagreement with Scott, that they bring it to us. I think.
Yeah.
Sound like a big disagreement.
It's not, and it's not, and I know you don't mean it to be a big, it's not, it's just, that's just a little bit of Psych 101 for me. It's just to say, here's as simple as this. I made recommendations and I would rather not because I want to see this. And it's your budget. I'm not going to put something in there and set myself up, to say, and make the changes without agreement. So I'm hoping that Andy and I can sit down next week and maybe we'll at least iron out the budget and then he can have the conversation. His concern is if we start moving things, is that they'll be underfunded. And my point being, I think, like you, Paul, brought up, Commissioner Parity, is that, rather than, wants to see the elimination of the red line, rather than reduce fuel. Well, fuel is significantly overfunded. Even if gas went up, that much, we probably wouldn't drive. But you're leaving money on the table by doing that, because the rent is a known expense, so you're gonna get 50% of that back. If you leave $2,500 of fuel on the table, you're not gonna get anything back. And
Well, he doesn't agree with that. I mean,
it's a little bit of a struggle there.
we need to hear from Scott and him about that disagreement.
Okay, so we need one more meeting.
You really need at least one more for presentations, and you might be able to iron it out after that, at least for the BAC. So you have the sheriff's office, which is the SO, Department 10, Department 12, Department 11 jail. That's the jail cap. That's pretty easy, although Tim does have a separate budget, but that's not in our budget. Department 12, town contracts, that's usually fairly simple.
It's gonna be a zero account.
And revenues and expenses need to match. It's mostly pass-through, or it isn't a pass-through account. What am I missing? 13 is civil. That's generally, and 46 drug task force.
So,
And then the DA's office. I think that, and EMA, that's it.
okay, so with that we're not ready to do, I mean, we've blown today. We can't, there's nothing that we could deal with today.
They're not, no, they're not
Okay.
ready, no.
So our next meeting, you're still saying that we need a meeting before our next meeting to deal with these?
You need a meeting before the 28th. Yeah,
So I'm pretty much have to be the 21st.
what I was hoping was is the week of the 21st was, and you're gonna be gone, was that would kind of solidify things. And then the 28th, if you had to meet an hour or two before, or maybe an hour before the BAC, you turned it over to them, that you could do that, but
I'm leaving the 20th.
leaving the 20th. And this could be done
Could
by
this,
Zoom, it could be done,
it's just so,
well, that's why so this might be one of those where it's a hybrid,
what
It
about,
could be done at night, it could be done early in the morning.
you just can't, it's like such a working trip. I go in at 6:30, I don't get home till 9, I crash and I do it. It's just, for me to be able to participate in a meeting during that week is pretty darn impossible.
During the week of the 21st,
The week of the 21st. What about next week?
that's what I'm shooting for, is next week.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Do what?
no,
That's
close
not
like
the
the, what I,
21st.
no, did I say the 21st? It's next week is whatever, the 13th or the 17th.
how about the 14th or the 15th?
John scratched it, don't scratch too hard, you're gonna kill.
It's got more than I do.
I could do it on the 15th if I have to be out of here by 12:30.
Oh, gosh, if it takes that long,
If we started 8:30,
8:30 on the 15th. Yeah. You could go early, you could go 8 o'clock if you wanted to, but Paul's in travel time, but 15th at 8:30?
Yeah.
Is that a Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah.
So when do you want to schedule the public hearing?
for the BAC,
Yeah,
20, what's the date, what's the last date to do that?
October 2nd, which is a Saturday.
Yeah, so probably the,
I mean, if you got everything wrapped up next week, you could do it on the 28th. You have a public hearing that day for the remote meeting policy as
You're
well.
gonna be here on the 28th.
Yes,
That's a good day to have it, 28th.
Okay.
yeah, but the 28th,
Wait a minute,
we have two,
isn't that the day we give it to the BAC?
the last couple of years, you've actually had one last budget meeting at night, and you've turned it over to them. But honestly, DAC, like maybe 2 or 3 members have shown up historically, so.
For the
Although they had
public,
enough last year to do a quorum and decide, but,
because they used to go right into the meeting and set up their schedule and everything.
yeah.
We
What about-
still do that on the 28th?
It would be, if it was in the evening, or I could see if,
Well, it wouldn't have to be, I mean, we're doing it to accommodate a meeting schedule. Let's try that this year. Let's try to have it during our regular.
try to do it on the regular meeting.
Regular meeting,
And
you know, I mean, see what happens.
Do you want that at a certain time?
Yeah, we should set that time certain,
mhm.
10 o'clock, because you know, something like that.
well, the problem with doing that is we got two abatement hearings on
So,
that
right,
day.
yeah, you can't do it at 10, because I think I have a schedule for
The
like,
abatements is scheduled for 10.
I'd have to look, is it 10 to 10? 10 to 10:30, yeah.
9 o'clock is your meeting policy hearing.
That'll take 5 minutes.
Meeting, say that again?
Your
Oh, the meeting policy,
Remote policy.
public hearing.
Right. Do you,
And like I say, I mean, I can't imagine it's going to.
you want to do it at like noon time? And if, I mean, I don't think if all 3 of you don't have to be, I mean, if that's okay with you, you don't have to be here to turn it over to the
Why couldn't we
BAC.
do it at 9:15?
You could.
I mean, that's this, that part is going to take very long. He's at a public hearing on that, right?
No,
I mean, it's.
normally doesn't.
No, I mean, it's not like you're going through every department's budget.
Right.
That's not what it's.
No, that's if anybody out there has questions that,
It usually doesn't take long at all. Can we do that 9:15?
If you want.
Maybe 9:30. Let's go 9 o'clock with the remote, 9:30 with this, 10 o'clock for our abatements.
in the meantime, I'll reach out to the VA.
What time for the abatement?
10 and 10:30.
Okay, because those are already set.
Yeah,
I'm not sure 30 minutes is long enough for one of them, but considering they're both the same.
well, yeah, I figured if they ran one and see how they're.
That's no big deal because if one ran into the other.
I'll reach out to the VAC and see if I get any flack for, and I'll let you know.
And jumping back to the hearings, we are going to have our attorney here. No,
Well, we haven't decided it. No, that was never decided.
I was thinking, I'd have to look at my notes if he was gonna be here on the 28th and not. I think you had kind of thought about that process.
Well, we've talked a couple times about whether or not we should have an attorney present, but no. I said the 28th mistakenly. He said.
That's
the
right.
8th.
That's why I'm a little, yeah.
So, I mean, he intended to be here on the 8th, but not the 28th.
So do you want me to reach out to him and have him here or
Nope.
no? Yeah.
I personally do not. I don't think
Good.
we want to start doing that. I mean, that's going to make abatements here tremendously expensive.
I sort of agree with that. I just feel like we might need a little guidance
Well,
later.
If-
I wish that we could have some kind of guidance before the 28th.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, but you don't decide on the 28th, so you could always, because you generally deliberate later,
We
you can
knew what we were
always.
looking for though, during that hearing, that abatement hearing, we knew what we wanted to look for to help us decide. Then we could focus on those points, but if you,
That's a good point right there. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we have the hearing, and then if there's nothing compelling us to decide that.
Right,
we never do, we always deliberate later.
So we never decided that.
yeah.
We never decided.
Well, I was gonna say, if he was here during the hearing, if you had him here, then after the hearing, you could have your little consult with him, if there was something.
Well, if you want to turn, I say, Jim, you two, if you want to turn over your responsibility to decide these abatement hearings to an attorney, Ed Bearer is more than capable of telling us exactly how we should vote.
No,
No, the
That's what's
appraisal,
gonna happen.
the appraisal conversation is what I'm talking about. You wanted to get together with
We
him
don't
for
need
the
to,
appraisal.
are there appraisals with the 28th?
I can look, I think so.
I still think I still would like to have an appraiser come here,
Oh, okay, I thought you were
Knowledgeable
talking, okay,
appraiser.
never mind.
come here and, no, I'm just, this is
Yeah.
a suggestion, but sit down and tell us about that process.
I think that's good.
You know,
Yeah.
I could find one, I'm quite sure that would be.
Well, and here's why that's not important to me, because I've had many appraisals done for many different reasons. And I've argued with them, and every single one of them is a different argument. And I think if you brought 10 different appraisers here and asked them to do what you want us to do, you'd be even more confused. Because I certainly am. And, you know, they'll all tell you that, you know, that they have, you know, a professional code of ethics and they're bound to do this. And if you ask them to do, you know, give you this kind of appraisal, they're not gonna.
Yeah.
But I don't mean to belittle your point. I'm just, my experience is that we're gonna be as confused.
So it's not like a general, what I'm thinking is there a general range? So if I have property X at 150,000 and for whatever reason, then, well, for this reason, it could be 10% less here, or is there a 20% variance no matter which way you're trying to go? I mean, that's what my mind is thinking, you know, but I can see
It's not that exact.
exactly an appraiser going, I can't answer that question. It's not.
And we know that, we had an appraiser tell us that. Because I said to him, if you remember, I said, if we go to page 2 and deduct page 17 and multiply it by page 4 and then divide that by 27, can we get a number? He said, if it was that simple, it wouldn't be 41 pages long.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
All right.
how can I mark all my emails?
Can you mark them all?
In other words, so I delete them all at once.
So like,
Oh, control and click the first one, control and click the last one.
You put the computer on the floor and stand on it.
You need to get yourself an Alexa that does all.
Are you trying to delete them all?
Yeah. You're supposed to be able to somehow. No,
Well, if you click on that one.
So we gonna adjourn?
Hit Shift, yeah, and then you click there.
okay, that's it.
wait, just
Yeah.
one real quick thing.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I was wrong. You said the hearing for the remote meeting policy for 8:30. We could still move that to 9 if you want, but I think the thinking was we're gonna open with that.
oh, well,
I mean, nothing's been posted yet, so we can always change that.
oh, yeah, but that's.
What, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I told you wrong. The remote meeting policy hearing we talked about 8:30 rather than 9.
Okay,
But nothing's been posted yet, so we can change that if you want.
so can we set the public hearing for now?
Yeah, for the budget?
Okay, so 8:30 for the remote hearing, 9 for that, and 10 and 10:30 for the abatements?
Yeah.
For that matter, if the BAC has an issue, we could schedule something in the evening and I can stay, or, I mean, Jerry, you're close by, if you want to pop back or something and hand it off to him,
Get time and a half.
you know, yeah. Well, I know, it's well known, in mind, yeah,
You get the,
Okay, I'm gonna move to adjourn.
please do.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.